Welcome back, Toaster. It's day 13. It's like a countdown, except you don't know where it's counting to. So it's just instead of the time in Mario, it's the time in Sonic. It ends eventually, you just don't, it doesn't say when. Someone in the Discord did a search of this game for instances of the phrases sigh out, sighed out, and sighing out, and got 328 results, which is a lot of time to use the exact same description in one story. And well, we have the stat now, I guess. There were so many questions, but not enough answers. That's the line to start today on. Oswin was around, so maybe the focus could be on him instead of me. Yay, Oswin will be the new Thanatos, and that he's the main character instead.
Even though Thanatos is still here.
Yeah. It'd give me some freedom to think for people to leave me alone. Because Dave thinks so much. He's always thinking. Just give him a minute and he'll think so hard and solve everything. But was that what I really wanted? Maybe I wanted someone to give me attention, to notice me, senpai.
Are you fucking kidding me, Dave? Literally every single person in this house gives you attention. You are literally the center of attention in every scene. They pulled you into a scene where two other characters had conflict just so you could be there so they could give you attention. Like, what are you talking about?
It's also absolutely true that he wants the attention and does not want to be ignored, because literally every time he ever feels bad, he goes off to his room alone and sulks without any telling anyone. He's like, why isn't anybody checking on me? Like, it's inherently, he wants people to psychically pick up on all of his cues and pay attention to him all the time. To save me. To the point where he's like, no, I can't let Tyson improve as a character. What if he pays less attention to me if he's a better person? Like, he's like, if Tyson has a character arc, he might look at me less, and then that's bad. Sal slipped quietly into the room and closed the door behind him, keeping his gaze elsewhere. Hey, Sal.
Hold on, I have to swallow my salad that I was eating in a rush.
You failed. You failed.
I was trying to eat my salad because I thought we wouldn't encounter the character that doesn't know what salad is if I ate my salad quickly enough. What a fool I've been.
It's not Sal repellent. If anything, you summoned him.
Yes, hello,
He seemed to go to speak a few times, thinking over his words before settling on what he wanted to say.
I wanted to see if you were awake. I thought you might be.
Shuffling closer, he stopped halfway between the door and my bed, quickly looking me over.
You know I am. Normally up, I mean.
What?
What's wrong, Sal?
Why did Sal say that?
I guess because he doesn't sleep or something? I don't know.
Well, scroll up. I mean, up one more.
Yeah, he's just saying that he's awake. And you know I'd be awake. I'm normally awake by
I
now,
get it.
I guess.
He's saying, you know I am, as in I am awake. I normally am. I thought he was like responding. I thought that was like Dave dialogue that was misattributed as Sal for a second. But I understand now that it's him. He's speaking very casually. Yeah.
Me?
Oh, go on.
It's just one of the ongoing things where people just kind of declare their personality traits, and you're like, I don't know if that was established, really. Like,
yeah.
Like, effectively, I mean. I have to say effectively, because otherwise someone will point out the one time it was mentioned or something, and I'm like, okay, man.
Me? Oh, right. I just wanted to check in on how you were doing. You weren't at dinner. You're likely hungry, and then there's that other boar.
Oswin?
Right.
He trailed off there, looking uncertain. There's so many things Inching closer, he stopped, just shy of the bed.
Orlando came to me last night. For all the panic that was going on, he came to me in tears.
The idea made me sit up, frowning. Sal sat down carefully on the bed, rubbing his arms.
He's terrified, but he knows how to seek help. He wanted grounding and reassurance things are going to be okay.
Okay. Sal sighed, shaking his head.
Why haven't you done that? If not me, then Tyson, Orlando, Haas, or Roswell. Anyone.
He literally has with Tyson several times. Maybe butt out of people's business, Sal. And don't make weird assumptions about what they're doing off camera. Like, freaking Dave has repeatedly confided in Sal constantly, and they go back and forth with their mantra about having each other's backs, and they've also specifically talked about the loss of his dad this route. Like, this conversation feels like it's the author being, like, Sal's supposed to be the correct hand of the author, but actually he's just wrong. He's just wrong and making assumptions about people that he doesn't have omniscient views of. I didn't have an answer, because I'm not a character. Instead, just sitting there with my mouth parted, ready to defend myself, but no words came. Yep, so he's supposed to be right, but he's wrong. Whoops.
My concern is that if I don't press you to talk about it, you never will.
But what if I don't want to talk about it? Flashing him a wry smile as he stared at me, expressionless for a few moments before standing again.
Fair enough. Sorry to have bothered you, Dave.
He walked towards the door and quickly left before I had much time to really process what he was doing. Bye! What do you think you're doing? Rubbing my eyes as I took stock of what was happening, I saw Oswin sitting at the table across from Roswell, clutching his coffee in much the same way I would.
Nothing.
Look at this smug little shit. Roswell was helping himself to some cereal, eyes focused on the older boar opposite him.
Just eating breakfast.
Oswin's eyes bulged as the last few crumbs of cereal fell out of the box, signaling that there was nothing left. Good morning. Are they gonna fight over Oswin's cereal? My greeting went ignored as Oswin's jaw was clenched, and he continued staring at Roswell. The others seemed to pay him no mind, some taking a seat at the table while a couple others went into the kitchen. That better not have been the last box, Roswell. You dumb motherfucker. You were hiding here in secret. You don't get to pretend to have boundaries over the food now.
I would have thought this cereal was for kids based on the slogan on the box. Don't know why you're kicking up such a fuss over it, Mr. Hammond.
You're 19.
And you're wearing a fucking Steven Universe sleeveless hoodie. Get out of here. You dress like you like anime. Shut the fuck up.
You're pulling age on kids stuff when you're supposed to be going to college. Why, you little Benson, karate chop this child. At once, sir. Oswin hollered, looking around quickly for the butler. A few of us flinched, but went back to groggily sitting at the table. Sure enough, Benson emerged with the rest of those missing at the table, and food was brought along with them.
Yes, Mr. Oswin?
Did you give Roswell that cereal box?
I did not, Master Oswin. Is there a problem? This is dumb. I hate this. Are we gonna have another dumb conversation about like where characters don't develop at all? They're just doing omake stuff because they want to have a cute scene where characters interact and they don't know what to write, so they just put something stupid in.
We're quirky.
We're quirky. Here's us doing food again.
We established that Oswin likes cereal. He likes sugary cereal, like Benson said.
Every character has one food trait.
And Roswell's trait is being an asshole. So he's going to antagonize Oswin over the cereal while eating the last of it. This would be successful follow-through if it wasn't for how much that these kinds of really surface level jokey traits are like most of their personalities. LOL, Orlando can't swim, he's so scared of water. He's wearing little floaties, look how scared of water he is. And it's like, alright, put Orlando back on the shelf, we have 10 more days to burn through, where he doesn't come up. A problem? There won't be so much. There won't be so long as there's another box remaining.
By all means, you're welcome to check while I attend our guests. Is Roswell just gonna eat the whole box of cereal? Like, if the concern is that Roswell is eating the rest of the cereal, the pantry is supposed to be well stocked. Was there truly only one more bowl of cereal left? Oswin, you had other problems if you're that on the hook for cereal. You're gonna have withdrawals? Are you gonna be okay?
It's just his really specific super cereal. The fruitiest loops, which he eats because he's not gay. Now all that's left is Chex Mix. You're the butler, go check.
Oh, but what host would I be if I neglected the needs of our guests? You're not a host. Oswin's the host. He's literally hosting them.
No reply came from Oswin, instead just looking between his butler and Roswell with a scowl.
Now, if you were that bothered by the lack of your preferred breakfast, you have 2 legs of your own, sir. You're welcome to check the pantry. It's remarkable how bad of a butler Benson is. He's like a combat butler, right? Like, he's paid to be an assassin and also be a good butler. But consistently in this story, he's like, yeah, I'm just not gonna do that. Which is just so funny. I don't understand.
Either thing.
Yeah, he's terrible at both.
Really assassin.
No, he's awful.
I think the only reason we ever got rid of the blood smear is the timeline resetting. I think it just stayed there for the rest of that timeline for like 4 or 5 days. A few moments later, he stood suddenly, grunting once before stopping over the kitchen and throwing the door open to disappear into the adjoining room.
Now then. Master Roswell, did you really need to provoke Master Oswin like that?
Not really.
He's just a huge asshole. His whole character is that he's a dick. Good morning, Master Dave. Do you require coffee?
Is Oswin gonna be alright?
That is something I wouldn't worry yourself over.
Yeah. Orlando piped up from nearby, keeping his eyes on the food he'd brought out. It was like this at dinner, too. Roswell asked him a bunch of questions and figured out what buttons to press really quickly. Would have been cool if he saw that scene, but Dave didn't want num-nums.
Hey, after last night, I just had a lot of pent-up curiosity that I figured he'd make a good person to vent to.
What?
What? What does that sentence mean?
I think he means,
I'm gonna be a piece of shit to him to vent my frustrations, because it would be good to do that to him, because I was curious about stuff.
It's just all the words he said are insane.
Yeah.
Like, I have pent-up curiosity. Roswell. You can only have pent-up curiosity at a specific target. But then he says, then I figured he'd be a good person to vent to, which implies that his curiosity is just like a meter that charges up abstractly with no target, and then he just decided to put it on Oswin, which is insane. When you could just actually say you have pent-up curiosity about this weirdo that lived in the house the whole time, but then you said it in a way that self-contradicts. Like, asking him questions non-stop? You look ready to throttle you. Yeah, that's how you satisfy your curiosity.
Had Master Roswell not been as slippery as he proved, he might have.
You wouldn't really let that happen, would you?
Of course not, Master Dave.
I just let him stab people.
I may serve Master Oswin as his butler, but I'm not about to let him bring harm to our guests. Or act as a child.
Benson continued on, and Roswell started eating his cereal while I grabbed a piece of toast. Going without coffee today? That's unlikely. Huh? Right. Pouring myself a mug from the pot on the table, I had the sugar and milk passed to me carefully by Orlando. Thanks. Sure, no problem. Yeah. Okay. I caught Sal nudging Dean, who seemed to pick up on that he was meant to do something. Oh, right. Orlando, how are you holding up? Good?
He knows, Orlando.
Oh, then... could be better? I'll be fine, I think. You sure? Don't need, I don't know, something to help things along? A talk? A distraction? Laxatives? I sank in my chair. Part of me felt like this was just for show, to highlight where I was failing, even though I'd specifically confided with Tyson. Well, I talked to Sal about stuff last night, but we've got a plan for something to do later. I'm interested in keeping my mind busy. Well, good. How about we round up people and just, I don't know, maybe we can bust out a big game that we can all play. Yeah, I think I'd like that.
Are they seriously going to spend yet another day, like, quote-unquote, playing a board game?
I don't know if that was sincere. It felt like they were doing a Dora the Explorer or, like tiny baby children's, like, demonstration for Dave about feelings, and it was all an act.
I'm just scared that it's not going to be that, and it's just going to be another scene of them talking about playing a board game and then not.
Today we're playing Arkham Horror. It takes 3 hours in-game to explain the details of how to play the rules. They continued talking, and Orlando's spirit seemed to pick up. Turning my attention to Haas and Tyson, they seemed to already be talking about something. Cool. It's the opposite of flow.
I'm telling you, you're picking one today.
If you're lucky. What are you two talking about? Nothing important.
Nothing important. Geez, you have a long way to go.
It's just, whatever it is you call it. I don't even have a favorite show yet, and you're asking me to pick a favorite character from everything you've watched?
Which is a very important step in the process, big dog.
I don't think you should call him that, Haas.
Why not?
Ty doesn't, I mean, Tyson looked at me funny, somewhat confused. It's fine. What? But you... And... I felt confused. He tore into me for bringing it up, but days later, Haas is getting away with the same thing, no problem? Didn't feel fair. Not like I'm fucking thrilled over it, I'm just putting up with it for your sake. Well, you're explaining this in front of Haas now. I feel like it's ruined, right?
Yeah.
Who would see an awkward exchange about how the thing you're calling someone is upsetting them, and then just saying in front of you, yeah, I'm just putting up with this shit. And then you just keep doing it? Like, Haas has to be such a horrible person at that point. And he's going to be. I know he will. But
Well, I wore him down, I guess. All about that give and take, right?
Yeah, famously, it's a great idea to wear someone down on giving them racial nicknames that make them uncomfortable. Good plan, Haas. You sure won this social engagement, and you look great now. This is one of those moments where the fact that they racially coded all of the species gets real not great when very specifically Tyson has a word he doesn't want you to call him.
I really wish that I could be naive, like Password fans who can like ignore it and just be like, you're just reading into it. And it's like, yeah, you tell yourself that it's either naive or malicious, and both options are bad. I would like to not.
Yeah, you hit a point where you just would hope the author would read into it and then be like, oh, let's change course here. Let's not give this character with all this coding a word he doesn't want you to call him. And then one person that looks extremely white just sure loves calling him it and just wore him down. This complements everything else really well. Ugh. I just went to speak again, but words caught in my throat. Anyway, I'm not picking one.
Come on, it's not that hard. Even Dave has one. Even if his taste is to be refined.
Refined?
I don't want to listen to this stupid fucking waifu talk. I don't want to. I don't want to hear this. I don't like this.
He says you have shit taste, pup. I don't.
You do, but it's all right.
I wish he made being bi his whole personality. At this point. Be the bi actor you were born to be, instead of the insufferable anime guy who just repeats copy-pasted Reddit conversations. And then everybody clapped. There's something else weighing me down now, the judgment of what I find appealing and what I like. Normally we do go back and forth, not just Haas and I, but Roswell and Orlando too. But now with everything else, it was just wearing me down. Oh, right. Of course. This is a good example of my criticism of the Oz thing a second ago, where I'm just like, cute interaction, cute little character trait, but it's like, okay, what else? And it's like, okay, let's go back to Tyson and Haas. They've interacted several times. Oh, they're still doing the same conversation. They're still just actually doing surface level, rote anime conversations, and that's the depth of the scene, basically. You're like, okay, well, see, that's the problem, is that's kind of all that they're ever doing. I chuckled, focusing just on my coffee instead. Dave, listen, you want to watch anime with us later?
Oh, already taking the initiative? Gonna show him your favorites?
What the hell? I'm allowed to invite who I want. Thanks, but no thanks. I flashed him a weak smile as I stood.
Got plans already?
He never does. Nope. Womp womp. R.I.P. controller, I guess.
Oh no.
It just died in my hands out of nowhere. I'm like, what? Wasn't this in the charger all night? Maybe these batteries are dying. Something like that, but maybe I can join you guys later? Ty sighed, and I leaned back in his chair, rolling his shoulders. Sure, Pop. Sure. Nodding to him, I stood up from the table and wandered down to the kitchen with my mug in hand. Even having missed dinner, I wasn't all that hungry, but I wanted the excuse to get away from the table. Where is the blasted... As I entered, I looked to Benson, who was off to the side, watching as Oswin dug around in the pantry.
Pay no mind to him, Master Dave.
This is just Master Oswin sourcing his own breakfast.
He straightened, setting a colorful box on the counter and sighing out. It's one of the 328. Gotta catch them all. That boy is lucky there was another box. Or he would have been the child 100.
Perhaps this is a sign that you should leave the children's cereal for the children, sir. Get it? Because he has a sweet tooth just like Roswell. They're definitely not related. Wonk!
What?
That's me wonking at the audience.
I'm a grown man, and if I want sugar cereal for breakfast, then I'll be damned if I can't make that decision freely. But what about your teeth or eggs? What? I assume he means like, why don't you eat eggs? Which I'm a fan, but what an insane sentence. Eggs. And more species jokes. More confusing species jokes. What does bacon mean in this setting? What are we supposed to think about that?
He does have a point, sir. I thought this was awesome dialogue for a second. Scrambled eggs is something manageable.
Chocolate cake. Chocolate cake?
You're not having chocolate cake for breakfast.
Why not?
Do you really think that's an appropriate meal choice for first thing in the morning?
Why, glad you asked, Benson. I do. Really? Why? I thought cake was for dessert or whatever.
Be that as it may, sir, I'm not making you chocolate cake for breakfast.
Then sugar cereal? But now we're back to scrambled eggs, right? What? Dave, you brought up scrambled eggs. No one cares.
Did you want eggs, Master Dave?
I quickly shook my head, heading over to the coffee machine instead to contemplate if I need another cup, or if I should go without. Dave, how are you feeling? Fine.
You don't sound fine, my boy.
I'm fine, really. How did last night go? Fine. I shot him a look and he gave me one back, accompanied with a raised brow. Should it not have been? No, I guess going fine is a good thing.
Master Roswell entertained Master Oswin with enough questions to keep most of your friends satisfied with his presence here.
I turned to Osmond for clarification and he nodded. Quite a mind in that head of his. His aptitude for being able to find what makes people tick is truly worrying, however.
I dare say you missed a show, Master Dave.
With a grunt, Osmond started pouring himself some cereal, earning himself an annoyed, if fleeting, look from Benson. Are we just gonna keep referencing the conversation that we missed and be like, wow, you sure missed a good scene. And you're staring out in the woods doing nothing for an afternoon, player. Oh, yeah, he said Roswell was being slippery and Osmond would have throttled him if he caught him, right? Recapping 10 seconds ago. He moves faster than I gave him credit for. It's a wonder that bastard child is as fast as he is, given how pudgy he is in the middle. You know for a fact he's not a bastard unless he is your child, and specifically, you abandoned him. That word only applies if you're giving up the plot twist. That's not very nice. Just stating fact. If it makes you feel better, consider it my jealousy showing in that I wish I had less weight to slow me down.
And I see you're going to great lengths to remedy that fact by eating your second bowl of cereal.
Grumbling, Osmond crunched what mouthful he had before defiantly shoveling another spoonful of cereal in his mouth.
Now, my boy, are you sure you didn't want anything for breakfast? Another cup of coffee, perhaps?
Still standing by the coffee machine, I got it a once-over before shaking my head again. No, thanks, I'll be alright. I wandered out from the kitchen into the hall leading to the foyer. There's supposed to be a hall going from the kitchen to the foyer, and not just a door? I feel that's like the single most used passage in the entire game, and I'm like, there's a hallway there? It always just feels like someone is just instantly in the next room. My friends were on the other side of the wall conversing among themselves, and while I couldn't hear specifics, I could make out they seemed happy enough. Why wasn't I happy? The joy of when this arrow lights up. There's something about how ice cream tasted whenever we went, though. Somehow sweeter. Or maybe it reminded me of a happier time as a whole. Okay. There's a dialogue line that changed. I picked both up and put them in my pocket carefully. Osmond said things had gone missing from the lab, so maybe this was some of it? Either way, he'd known better. Jack? Oh, nothing about this interaction changes. Yeah, he's old, but... Sure, he's around. Jack didn't seem to like that answer. His jaw clenched. He stared down at me with his voice low. Well, that's just great, isn't it? Here I was hoping this was going to be an easy job, too. Oh well, I don't mind a messy job when the pay is this good. You always make it a messy job. What the fuck are you talking about? I collapsed on the ground, clutching my chest. Had I been shot? Had Jack? What had happened? Dave! Looking up, I could see Dean skid to a halt in front of me, dropping to his knees and holding him up by the shoulders. I wanted to tell him what just happened, what I had seen, and how I was feeling, but nothing came out of my mouth except for raspy breath and the onset of nausea. God, you're pale. Were you out in the forest all day? What happened? Dean, did... I looked to Orlando, eased back onto my knees by Dean. Everyone! Dean found him! He was quick to leave again, rushing off somewhere out of sight, clinging to Dean, and I whined and gasped for air, my heart pounding in my chest. Trying to keep myself centered on Dean's honey-like scent, I struggled to calm myself down. Dean smells like honey?
I think we learned that before.
Maybe.
It's Dave.
Yes, I can see that.
Who? I heard a gunshot and...
We can discuss this later. Get the boy inside.
How the fuck... If Benson shot, how the fuck did Dean get there so fast? Like, if he didn't know what was happening. He's the first person there. Dean picked me up and I clung to him, digging into the muscle under the fur as if letting go was the same thing as dying then and there. Where is that fucking rabbit? I could tell it was Oswin. Silly Oswin, tricks are for kids. Although his tone was different, almost crazy, and I could make out what seemed to be a revolver in his hand before he shoved it into his pocket. Damn it all.
Sure, now is not the time to be gallivanting around on a crusade over rabbits.
They say hair, I swear to God. Osmond grunted, standing stiff. Was he the one that fired? How? From where? I opened my mouth to thank him, but nothing came out. Did they really have a completely different character in a completely different location still manage to make the exact same shot? It just seems extremely dubious between timelines. That's trying way too hard to clean things up by just having them use the same text.
At least Dave is accounted for now.
Damn it. He's suffering. The sound I made was a mix between a whine and a rasping cough, and tightening in my chest became worse. I just realized I just had an upsetting realization, and I'm mad. Again. I'm so mad all the time, Toaster. I'm an angry boy. I'm so angry all the time. Ah! The reason why Tyson randomly turns into the type of person that would inject Dave with something is because he's just recycling the plot point from when Oswin does it in Route A.
Yes.
And it does make sense for Oswin to be like, ugh, this child is overreacting. Seduce him. Wow.
Seduce him. That's very bad.
Him. It took me a while to land the right word there.
I can't believe Keith condones Oswin seducing what? And then we're gonna put a big red arrow on the thumbnail in my mortified face.
Canceled, red circle. Trending on Twitter. Clip this out of context. Da, 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 da. Everyone's an adult. But no, it's in character for Oz to be like, knock him out. and like, because he literally does just jab Dave already. So much like, I thought I was like, oh wow, what a criticism to be like, oh, it's really weird that you would sub out a completely different character to take the exact same shot and have the scene resolved the same way, even though the people are completely different. Like, that's just kind of lazy, but also doesn't make any sense. But then I realized that's what they're about to do with the fucking sedative when Dave's like, freaking out, oh no, and then they have to knock him out for a day. That's why fucking Tyson of all people does it. It's because he's just recycling Oz's behavior, which is insane. They're not even slightly related characters. They're not on the same side. They don't have the same motivations or relationship with Dave. It just makes it really upsetting when when his friend group sedates him with drugs against his will. The sound I made was a mix between a whine and a rasping cough. The tightening in my chest became worse.
Then do something about it. You're a doctor, right?
Again, I tried to speak as Oswin stepped closer, looking me in the eye.
Shut him down, Dean. Oh, no, this is Oswin.
Set him down, Dean. As if afraid of breaking me, he set me down the stairs, sitting me against him for additional support. It's all right, Dave. You're safe now.
You had us all worried.
Help. Took everything I had to get the word out, and I tried to stand, slipping on the stair below me and falling into the cold tiles of the foyer floor. It's fine. This just is what happened last time I tried to play DDR. He's just not the kid he used to be. He'll get over it. Just give him 5 minutes. In a flash, Dean was by my side as I heard the others rushing closer. We were in danger. They were all in danger, and it was my fault. I couldn't breathe. My vision was blurring, and I was starting to lose my ability to hear. I've got an idea. A Tyson-shaped blur rushed past up the stairs until I could no longer discern his scent among the others. Dean seemed to know what his plan was and hurried along after him soon after. Wait, it really is just Tyson still? Wait, Oz is right here. Why would this be Tyson's plan? Wait. Like, as much as it's insane to have Tyson recycle Oswin's behavior from the other route, the idea that it's never Oswin's plan and it's always Tyson doing this when Oswin's right there and is the person who has the character to do that is bizarre. Dave, listen to me. I need you to tell me where the rabbit went.
You can't be serious. That's the priority for you right now.
Roswell went ignored and Oswin stopped next to me, shifting me so we could make eye contact easier. It's very important. Where did he go? It took everything I had just to shake my head. The smell of gunpowder was strong on Oswin, and I was bringing memories to the surface that I couldn't fight off. Should we get him somewhere?
Maybe we should at least pick him off the floor. Dave, try to relax. I'll put you in your bed, and when you're ready, you can tell us what happened.
I still think this whole, like, Dave has a panic attack thing is just so bizarre.
It's
like, I mean, I get him having a panic attack. It's like, it's the response to it, him being exhausted and having a panic attack and going through all this. It's just, now that we're revisiting this scene, if he goes into his whole dad thing from this, it's just nonsense. Like, it's such a contrived point of the plot.
It's just it's a strange moment. Just like the reactions are odd, but also like the actual state of Dave is undersold, like internally. Like
exactly.
He doesn't actually seem like he's like having any of the symptoms of a panic attack besides laying down. Like he's described, it's almost like he's being observed externally instead of internally. Like he doesn't actually have, there's no stylistic writing to show his state of mind. There's no like him.
Yeah, he actually like just hasn't spoken or thought at all during any of this. Like we just don't know where he's at.
He's just like not really like, no kind of like ears ringing or defocused, or he can't, or like, I don't know, like it's just, there's nothing selling it.
Yeah.
Like to me, like I don't have like a list of symptoms ready to rattle off right now, but like it's definitely not like the equivalent of like when like, for example, like you're much more like in a moment of crisis when you're like, oh, we are experiencing Chase's perspective and he is having sleep paralysis at the bottom of the lake, and like that is a big oh fuck moment, and there's relatively little selling the idea that Dave's going through a crisis, so it's just everyone's reactions, and then that just becomes the bloated text of every single person has to talk now in this room, and then the bizarre syringe choice. It's a very strange scene.
Yeah.
And Sal came down to pick me up. As Sal came down to pick me up, I pushed him away. I could do it. I had to.
Dave, please.
Sal, stand back. What are you going to do? Oh, thank God. I was like, do not make Tyson do this. And previous criticism stands of like, why the fuck does Tyson do the thing that Oswin does in Route B? But like, if it would make even less sense if he does it in both. Because like, I need to know that it was just like a weird lazy relic when he did it in B and not the intended version of this scene, because it's unhinged. It's so unhinged for Tyson to do it. Like Oswin it's in character for Oswin to do this. It's genuinely an okay moment for him as a character, but then they recycle it and Tyson does another route because they just want to use the same scenes, and that's just very frustrating.
Word count.
Yeah.
At least it's efficient.
It's like it slots into one of my least favorite things about the Walking Dead video game and Mass Effect, is the way that they have you make a binary choice of who lives and who dies early on in those series, and then in both cases the other character that survives just has to slot into the same character as the person who died. Like no matter what, they have to share the same role. So like Kaidan and Ashley do the same thing in both Mass Effect 2 and Mass Effect 3. They have like different personalities and flavor text, but like they are in the same place at the same time in 2.
They serve the same function.
Yeah, and then they show up in the party the same way in 3 as when they return for them, which is them almost like feeling like them being called out on getting rid of the sort of disposable characters. It's like, no, we're gonna put in the effort and actually use them, but they still use them both the same way again. You're like, no, stop.
Yeah.
And then at the beginning of Walking Dead, what's frustrating is that you very specifically spend entire scenes differentiating these two side characters, and then the episode ends with the choice of which one to save, and then they fill the same role in the narrative for the rest of the game, even though literally the point of all the interactions before the choice of who lives and who dies was about differentiating them as characters, but then they just become the same character. You're like, damn it.
It's yet another issue of like the game not understanding that the whole point of all these variations is that you see different people bounce off each other, but the characters have no unique voices and they all serve the same function. So it really is just like, oh, guess we're just doing this again. Like functionally, there's no real difference between these characters aside from like the dumb joke scenes that they have, which don't actually contribute much and are really one-dimensional.
Yeah, it's why I think it's often just pretty good actually to just have like the routes in a game just genuinely split and be unique text all the way through and tell different stories because of the choice. Like as comical as it is that there's just like one individual scene in every free visual novel where you make the most impactful choice of the entire game and rewrite the fabric of the universe in that moment by completely making the story go in a different direction with who you hang out one day. At least there you have unique stories that are just being written from front to back and not like this approach. Because when you try to have so many logic checks everywhere to make it all work together, which is one of the most impressive parts of this game on some level, even though it obviously has 100 cracks everywhere. It's like it's impressive, but it's also misguided because like trying to make the branches all reconnect and recycle text between A and B and between different characters and so on means that you're then incentivized to make those scenes plausible, which means breaking the characters so that you can then recycle a scene. And it's just like, no, please stop.
Yeah.
Up there with like to the point where I'm just like, is that what's happening right now? When like Osmond like, here is my weird rat. I will walk away now. It's like, like, is this really so you can recycle the introduction to Thanatos CG and text and but Osmond's alive, so it doesn't work. So you're like, he'll just walk away, and then he comes back after that scene's over.
Yeah.
In a flash, Osmond pulled something from his coat and thrust it against my neck. The sound of air escaping, indicating something had happened. The sound of air escaping? You're not supposed to inject people with air. Was this his way of elegantly dodging saying side out again? Instead of Dave sighing as he passes out, the sound of air escaping is happening? No.
I guess so.
Oh wait, no, it's one of those fancy like medical guns where you go pfft.
Yeah, it's like a CO2.
Yeah, I thought it was a syringe, not like one of those science guns where you just like jam a thing in someone's neck
it's
and
science fiction. Science fiction item, yeah.
Those don't exist, do they? Like I don't see how they
not in the way that
TV does it. Like there's just a weird sci-fi devices where it looks like a little like. It's like a little flashlight looking end, like a grid of dots are on it, and they seemingly can just inject somebody against their skin. And I'm like, does it not have needles? I don't understand. How does this work?
Yeah. Anyway,
what did you do?
Something I was saving for that rabbit, but that should do to put Dave at ease.
Saving? Can you just not go down to your lab and get some more? Is your lab fully stocked? You have 27,000 boxes of gloves.
Saving for the rabbit. Like, were you expecting the rabbit to show up right now? Do you know that was going to happen? Whatever they said next I didn't catch. Instead, passing out there on the floor. It started with my vision, then my body went numb, and then last to go was my hearing. With the last voice I heard was Benson. Okay, I'm not insane. That's a horrible sentence. Saying something.
Yeah.
In a way, I was relieved with how everything had stopped. Was I dead? Was I asleep? Either way, all I could do is let whatever happens happen.
I feel like so often Dave is portrayed as a character who goes like, I could be dead or not. I don't know. Anyway, it's just like, it's always just like, well, whatever's happening is going to happen. It's fine. I have no thoughts on this, but I still expressed that thought in the most roundabout way.
Let me use 500 words to say that I don't have opinions on things. And
It's so frustrating.
what's happening? Anything could be happening. Let's see. Oh. Anyway, still don't know why the fuck Tyson ran off. I don't know if we're ever gonna elaborate on what his plan was. If it wasn't just the same plan, but it's like 2 timelines are happening at the same time. Whoops. Roswell kept his eyes averted as he closed the door, as far as resting his head on it before talking to me. The action of that sentence is fucked. Roswell kept his eyes averted as he closed the door, as far as resting his head on it before talking to me. I think he's trying to say he kept his eyes averted so far that he resulted in him resting his head on the door or something, but like the action changes to him closing the door, and
Yeah, I'm not sure. I don't really understand.
Thank God you're alive.
He sighed, turning to me and making his way over.
I kinda hoped you'd still be sleeping because, well, this is gonna be hard to ask.
I shifted over so he could sit down on the bed, but even then he didn't take up that much room. Are they gonna have the scene about the syringe now?
How are you holding up? Did you know,
Roswell scratched his head, fiddling with his hands as he tried to figure out what to say.
I suppose I should just start with, you're safe, I guess. Not that we found that rabbit.
The tightening in my chest made itself known as the panic came back.
No, Dave, it's all right. Benson's been on the warpath trying to find him, and we've seen hide nor, well, that's not what he's told Oswin anyway.
I felt sick, and I doubled over in bed. That's when I realized that I wasn't wearing my hoodie, and I patted myself down, looking for what I'd found in the woods.
When you blacked out, well, we couldn't leave you in the foyer. That's when something fell out of your pocket and Haas snatched it up. Dean and Tyson put you in bed after.
I find Roswell very annoying. You know? You know what I mean?
Yeah?
He's
Yeah.
just annoying.
Seemed to have a long discussion about what had happened among themselves over it, too.
If they still lean into this, were you planning on committing suicide by injecting yourself with meningitis or whatever? I'm gonna lose my mind.
What had happened, part of it lingers fresh in my mind from my dream. It made me quake and whine while I sat there.
Dave, what's been happening with you?
Nothing. Literally nothing's been happening this whole time. He has absolutely there's just nothing that's going on with him.
I ask only because, well, the moment people realize you're awake, we'll all have questions for you.
What? I still don't understand this. I don't understand why they'd have questions about why your friend who is on this vacation, who is just hanging out, goes for a walk, and then finds some garbage. Like, that's it. That's all it is. I don't understand.
It's frustrating because, like, one, they pose a question about Roswell with it, but then don't follow up on that. And then it just becomes this thing of like, all of your friends are worried you're a junkie. And then that just doesn't really have a payoff. I think it's... Or specifically, it's that this storyline always culminates in the day 15, I think. Dave cries and tells all of his friends about his dad. Which it's the scene where we're confused because we don't know who this is news for, so we don't know who this is a confession to. But also, like, it is... Like... It's just so much more elegant to have him be having this moment of crisis where, like, the narrative here is supposed to be that he is shouldering the burden of this death game mystery thing that's happening, after meeting with Oswin and specifying that, which is less than effective because it's not super well described, but he internalizes that it's his responsibility and he can't tell anyone he's in this alone. So then he starts really fixating on his dad and hallucinating that as stress dreams, which itself makes its own sense. And then when he's like contemplating, he spends a couple of days contemplating suicide, then is attacked by Jack, which tells him that he does want to live because he had this near-death experience. And so going through all this, it makes sense for this to all culminate in him like confessing why he's all fucked up right now and what he's going through. Sure. It's just that they then, most of these plot points were really badly handled, so the moment actual text is bad, and so half the stuff I had to like explain was what was happening afterwards as opposed to feel it in the moment. But also like this syringe plot line does not come up in my description because it doesn't fit that arc.
Yeah, it doesn't have anything to do.
It's just a pointless insertion to make everybody worried about him, as if everything that already happened with him wasn't enough reason for them to be worried about him.
Yeah.
Like, the syringe does not actually help this plot get executed, so it only works if it's supposed to be setting stuff up about Roswell. But at least in Path B, everyone forgot about the syringe immediately, including Dave, and he never brought it up, even though he had the thought that he should bring it up with Roswell. So like,
yeah, it just doesn't. It's
discarded
not even a
as
thing.
an object. Like it just, oops, didn't keep it in my notes on when I was writing day 16, so I just forgot that whole plot thread or something.
I think for me, one of the things that I find just confusing is just like this idea of like Dave contemplating suicide and being depressed and stuff. And I'm
losing my sight, losing my mind.
Even when it happened in the other route, I just don't think it's communicated effectively. Dave is a sleepy, depressed boy, sure, and I can see how someone might be like, see, he's depressed. It's depression. It's about depression. But like, there's no clear indication, or there's no clear like point A to B here on a lot of this stuff.
Because the severity is also just really poorly communicated. Yeah.
And so like, when Dave walked out into the woods and like stood by the edge and stuff, and did all these things that like would presumably be building towards him like being mentally unwell, we know it's a death game. We see that, or at least I see that as him being like, oh, Dave is considering his options and is like coming to grim realizations and is at the brink of like breaking through his character development and like finally making a choice and doing things. I don't mean literally like choosing to off himself. I just mean like, this is the scene in every show where a character goes like... We both
saw the text of like, what if I just fell right now? And it's like, the Call of the Void is just like a universal experience when you just have, when you're in a variety of locations, you have that moment of thinking like, well...
What if I throw my phone out the car window while I'm driving? Yeah. Like, it just, you have that.
What if I lean forward off the Hoover Dam? That's like a really normal experience that isn't tied to being suicidal. That's just not what that is. But also, like, it's very much like Dave is so framed as being so beleaguered and in so much deep shit at this point that like, it just sounds like, what if I just gave up? Is the tone.
Exactly.
Not like I'm literally suicidal and have like a history of like depression and suicidal ideations, and it's that kind of thought process. Like, that's not what the tone conveys. It's just like, fuck it. It's like a very different, even if the end result is a suicide, even though it wasn't ever going to be, that's a very different tone for a suicide, because it's not like I'm mentally ill. It's the situation is so deeply fucked that I'm just making the choice to opt out of this fucked up scenario I'm in, like being drafted or something.
Yeah, exactly. And I think as a result of that, this whole sequence where it's like, Dave, what's wrong? Why were you gonna kill yourself with this syringe? And like, also like, this is when the levee breaks and we're gonna talk about your dad and Tyson's gonna explain everything. I just don't think it works because one, it's robbing Dave of his responsibility for his own narrative. Two, it's like making all of these characters make this like absurd leap. If Dave was so visibly insane and like unwell that characters now understand that he's suicidal and go to interrogate that, one, you don't need the syringe as a justification for the characters to talk about this. You don't even need the Jack stuff as a justification to talk about this, because the characters ostensibly noticed this, But the issue is that the audience didn't notice it. It's not conveyed well to the audience. So Grizz adds like 6 inciting events here to justify talking about Dave's mental health, when he could have just had Dave had mental health, like big mental health issues that were visible in the plot that like deteriorated his friendly relationships and all of these useless interactions he's had in the past few days with friends. And then just had a scene where they all talk about it. Like, it's like, you don't need to have 27 inciting events to justify what should be character development that is developed over the course of the plot. Instead, it's just like, oh, well, now it's halfway through the plot. It's time for Dave to have a suicide. It's like, okay, this sucks.
Everything
Why?
just kind of starts and stops, and the game almost always feels like today, like each day was kind of just written in its own go and wasn't considered as a through line and all that. And the struggle here is that we have 500 criticisms of this plot point. It is still the best handled arc in the entire game. Like, the dad situation is still like what else does this game accomplish? Like, that's kind of like the single most effective use case of like actually having like an arc that has a setup and a through line and then an inciting, like a climax and a resolution and all that. But like, it's the closest you get to story structure. And it's just such a shit show, but we're like, having seen the entire thing, you're like, nah, it never gets this good again. Fuck. Shit.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't even know if I think this really works that well. I think it's just kind of all bad.
It doesn't work well. It's just the closest you get to a structured story that handles characters the way that it's supposed to. Like, you can see how easily you would address half of it. It's right there, and most of the time there isn't a coherent through line at all for most of anything about this game, and it doesn't really ever pull anything off. It just does stuff like stream of consciousness throughout the time. This is the game that thinks it's clever when it's like, haha, I'm gonna go prime Orlando for a Superman moment, which is that you very heavy-handedly like just annoy him into going along with you, Thanatos, then knock him out, then jumps out a window, and then disappears for 2 hours, and then shows up at the end to one-shot the final boss off camera. That's how this game sets things up normally. It's like, okay, fuck.
Hey, I agree. I have big news, though. I need to go temporarily because my 4090 replacement just got in, so I have to upgrade my computer again. I'm gonna have a big, beefy, big boy computer again.
Graphics card.
So I'm gonna do that, and then I'll be back in a while. It'll probably take me like 45 minutes.
What game did you catch fire during again?
Baldur's Gate 3.
Oh yeah.
I was in the character creator wiggling the dick physics, and then my computer lit on fire. I was making myself a hot dwarf, and he got too hot for my computer to handle.
It was a flaming homosexual.
Like, where did you go? Why? Who was that?
I wheezed, grip tightening on my chest.
I wheezed too, and my grip also tightened on my chest.
Roswell's giving me an aneurysm.
Joke wheezing is a bad idea. You wheezed. You're wheezing.
Sorry, I'm just worried. What if my best friend had died? What if Osmond had overdosed you with... Well, sure, it's only sodium amytal, but he also said that it has some hypnotic properties. Look, do you want me to go? I can just pretend that you're still asleep, but someone's going to get you out of bed at some point.
He got up, shooting me a smile. Not flashing? So fleeting that it may as well have never happened.
I wish he would shoot Dave with anything. Literally anything.
That's just how people leave this room. They come to Dave, they talk to him about something that he's sad about, then they get up and they shoot or flash him a smile.
And then they leave without giving him time to even fucking respond.
Mm-hmm.
Because he just asked Dave a bunch of questions, and now is just turning around and leaving, and Dave literally hasn't said anything or even indicated a thought yet.
Yeah. Dave was clutching his chest and wheezing, apparently.
I'm glad you're alive, Dave. Hope you feel better soon.
He didn't even, like, wait for Dave to calm down or anything. He's just like, all right, Good talk, buddy. You look like you're having a heart attack. Bye. And just walked away. Characters. Roswell got off the bed and wandered over to the door, closing it behind him. I could hear him talking to someone just on the other side of the door before continuing on his way. I lay back down, sighing out. I was happy that I was alive, and at least I assumed so. I was happy I was alive, or at least I assumed so. I think you're the only authority on that, Dave. Maybe I was just thankful that I was alone again. Turning over, I cuddled my pillow and tried not to think of anything. But it was always the same thought process, wondering what if, and if I really should have survived. Yeah, it's the what if. That and was just the same thing twice. It'd been twice I had considered dying then and there. So was it now that my life was directly threatened? I knew I didn't want to die? I sighed, quivering in bed. It wasn't, because I knew better. Rip. Everyone was here. Although it seemed Osmond was lingering near the back, looking thoughtful about something. My friends each wore a look of worry as I looked at each of them in turn. Osmond marched his way down the length of the room the moment Haas had finished talking. He moved with purpose, swiping up both and turning over Orden's hand. What in the world? How did you get this? I went to explain, but I couldn't find the words. It was easy to say that I just found them in the woods, but the words just didn't come. Alternating between those two words rapidly is a trip. Ugh. It's fine. I'll go on a test on this vial to see what's on the label, if what's on the label matches up. Benson, give me a hand.
Was there any doubt that it wouldn't match up?
I don't know. He just landed on that somehow.
I'm gonna do a science so that everyone knows I'm a scientist.
Yeah, the tachyon particle beams. I feel like this talk is one best had without us present. Because we weren't here in the other route, so we'll fuck it up, and we'll have to write more lines where it's like, Oswald reacted like this.
Very well, sir. Take as long as you need with your talk.
The two of them left, taking with them what I'd found in the woods away, but not before everyone had a good chance to see exactly what Haas had presented. And now they're still going to confront him over it. Thanks for not in any way stepping in on this, Oswin. Thanks for just wandering off when you know what happened. Anyway, literally the entire confrontation about the syringe and Dave's dad revelation all happened exactly the same way.
I still don't understand. The syringe thing truly doesn't make sense. If again, I'm just always gonna use this example. If we're hanging out at Andrew's place and he goes outside for a walk and then comes back and says, "There's a crazy person outside that just chased me back in," and then Mandy guns him down in the street, and then Andrew has a panic attack, and then we find that there's like a syringe, some trash in his pocket. I'm not gonna be like, Andrew, were you gonna kill yourself? I'd be like, Andrew, why'd you pick up some trash off the ground? Like,
there's just like so many explanations of why you might have some kind of strange object, and it's like clearly something else is just the important thing happening right now. So the fact that like they pretty much end up talking about the syringe more than Jack is just wild.
Yeah. I don't understand. And of course, someone in the comments is going to be like, well, it makes sense if you realize that the mastermind killed someone with the syringe and Dave picking this up and they all think he's the mastermind. And actually, in the Akane timeline, it is he who uses the syringe on someone else. So it's all foreshadowing. No, it's just dumb. That's what it is. It's dumb. It's a stupid thing to be weird about.
Yeah, every character's just acting like an alien.
Yeah. Like, it literally is just here to put the syringe into the plot and to give Dave a reason to be interrogated about his father, which still, is just not really part of this. Like, I still don't understand why right now is when Dave has his whole dad thing in relationship to the rest of this stuff. It just doesn't really check out for me. I don't really follow it. So yeah.
Uh-huh. Thankfully, with Oswin around, that'd make things a little easier. I barely understood it when he told me, but hearing it directly from him should help. That's just a line saying, Oswin is existing. Is this also a one-off? No, it's actually a little talk. Okay.
Window just got pushed behind something and now I can't find it. Where are you? Oh, no, the window didn't get pushed behind something. It just crashed. All right, perfect. There we go. Well, that's a plus. Oswin's been scarce since he took the syringe away. Otherwise, I'd be asking him if it was actually, well, what it said on the label. The thing that none of us understand.
I can't accept the idea that a whole room of people are all experts on whatever the fuck random thing it says on the label. That
well, I mean, I thought explicitly none of them really truly knew what it was. One of them was like, I think that's a disease that I vaguely remember.
Well, is that, when Dave finds it, he's like, he reads like 2 syllables of it and gives up. And it's like, oh, it's something I know from mom, because mom's a nurse, but for some reason, or a doctor, but we didn't like, they weirdly don't tell us the thing that Dave read, which is annoying. But then like, it's that frames it as specialized information, which means everyone else shouldn't all know what it is.
Yeah.
And they're all just in lockstep. This is, yes, the most common murder, this is the most common suicide method known in this furry universe, is this exact type of syringe with this exact name on it. Like, what? He didn't come back?
Benson did, but he said that Oswin had stuff he wanted to think over. Maybe the test didn't go so great, or maybe he just wanted to hear it from you directly?
If it wasn't so late, I'd probably go talk to him now, because I'd like to know too.
So you really didn't, you know.
I'm gonna need a count on how many times that's used now. I shook my head and nodded in understanding. Reaching out, he patted my shoulder, leaving his hand there for a bit.
Good. I mean, we still don't really know what happened, but please don't hide the serious stuff anymore. It just makes us worry about you more. I don't think Dave was hiding the serious stuff. I think just Dave wasn't written to have any of the serious stuff going on until suddenly.
Yeah, I don't know. It doesn't make any sense. It's because it feels like at this, like, based on how we were on the narrative, he should mean his dad, but the fact that he says we don't really know what happened but don't have the serious stuff makes it sound like he means the syringe, and I'm like, bro, he had 5 seconds to say anything about it. Y'all injected him and knocked him out. Okay, but Haas, tomorrow is going to be a little hard.
Hard how?
Just something Osmond told me a while back. Something that probably led to everyone being a mess. Everything being a mess.
With the vault?
Something like that. Yeah.
Just don't go breaking again, trying to tell us. If Osmond knows about it already, just make sure he's in the room too, alright? What? What does he mean? Don't break your broken goods, Dave? Don't have a panic attack and die because of this?
Share everything with us, but also don't share us that's stuff that's gonna make you freak out, I guess. Like, I guess. Like, one line later, we're basically contradicting ourselves, like, no, don't hurt yourself sharing, or something.
Yeah.
I nodded slowly, having had the same idea as my plan. Not that it was much of one, but having some backup when I had to bring up the task he set me for seemed like the right call. Sentence. Okay. Whew. Some of them, you feel like you're doing gymnastics, like you have to stretch first before you read some of these sentences.
Yeah, it's pretty brutal.
It's a dream again. I think the last one, or the one where we are acknowledging that it's fake. I could still hear his voice in my ear, calling me brother, hugging me tight, and just being there for me. The memory of him talking to Dad before he went for work lingered, though. Wondering if now I'd be considered old enough to finally know what sort of stuff they had to talk about. Talking about penis! Finding myself downstairs, I looked around the room. I wanted to see Ty again. Not that it was that much of an ask, given he was elsewhere in the same house, but I felt a longing that I hadn't been able to shake. Ty. Looking over the sofa, I saw him sitting there looking stiff. Not that he seemed to be paying much mind, but just seemed seeing him put me at ease. What? I frowned, realizing the problem with what I was seeing. I just want to see you, I think. You dork. I'm not a dork for loving you, you jerk. The words
This was
right out of my
supposed to be in the
mouth.
past, huh?
I think this might be the semi-lucid weird dreams he starts having, where he just interacts with the character like their current version of themselves, but
Gotcha.
in the past. I think this is replacing what was previously a
Flashback, yeah.
Sal scene.
Yeah.
Where you
Oh,
talk
I guess
to
that's
Sal,
true.
you talk to like modern Sal, but it's the imaginary. It's like, well, why don't you tell me that? Talking about the real one and stuff like that.
You're right. You're right. That is what it is.
I'm not gay. I know, Ty, but like, what if you weren't? He isn't. It's the wrong tense.
What if you weren't not gay? The rumor does comes out.
The rumor come out? Does Tyson isn't not gay? He didn't say anything, probably because I didn't know how the real Tyson would respond to something like that, now of all times. All I know is that, I don't know. I think you're good enough if you wanted to be, you know? I reject that logic of like, I don't know how the real Tyson would act, so this simulated computer Tyson isn't going to react at all. It's like, no, just bullshit. Either your fear would happen or your wish fulfillment would happen. It's your dream. It's not going to be like, does not compute, cannot. It's not like you gave a porny response to the AI bot, and now it's like, I'm sorry, I'm not allowed to respond to that. It's like, it's just a dream. You're dreaming. Doesn't follow that kind of logic at all. All I know is that, I don't know. I think you're good enough if you wanted to be, you know? You're good enough to be gay. Sorry, I guess I just wish I could have this talk with you in person without getting so defensive. You know how that talk goes, though. Sure you want your heart broken? Dean's a good guy. Well, maybe I don't love Dean, alright? You don't love Dean? Well, we're not. I mean, he doesn't love Dean. It's just so equal. Obviously doesn't. There's like no air given to the idea that he does. I look at Tyson, uncertain. Dean and I weren't dating so much as I liked him. Maybe that just wasn't enough. Can we talk? In the morning, I mean. What do you think? I'd like to think you'd want to talk to me. Then guess you'll have to see in the morning. As I hit the stairs, I ran into Oswin, just about to head down himself. Boarding? Yeah, good morning. We descended the stairs in silence. Once we reached the bottom, I fumbled for what I wanted to say. Are you upset with me? He froze in his tracks, turning slowly to face me. Should I be? Well, the needle and the bottle... I have questions, to say the least, but now is not the time for that. Nah, just do it. I found them on the ground. End of conversation. Whoa. Wow. So glad we didn't put that off for 3 days. Then later? It takes longer to talk about this later than it does to say where you found them in the first place, and that's the whole story. You just found them by the riverbank. Someone else brought them there. That's the lore. You're all caught up now. Of course, later. You have enough on your plate as it is, although I will say I expect answers. I just got out of bed. I have nothing on my plate. Nothing's happening. Right. Yeah. That makes sense. I hate these characters. But I have some questions too about, well, that. What kinds of questions? Please explain the kinds of questions in excruciating detail so we can agree to actually ask the questions later at a set date. On the blood moon. You said we're not getting into it now, but just be ready for me to ask some questions too. I hate you. I hate you. Very well. When the time comes, I'll be sure to collect you for a little chat. That was pointless. Could have literally deleted that scene and it doesn't do anything. It's just you could just
I
have
think it's
the
always
scene.
interesting.
Instead of asking me
always,
if you can ask questions, you could just show me the scene where they ask questions of when it happens.
It's always interesting to me the scenes they decide to keep and the ones they decide to augment, because it's like the Dave dad scene and all of the hubbub around it, we're going to bend over backwards so that we don't need to add any new dialogue or interrogate anything else. It's all just the same fucking scene. But this chance to have a new scene that actually makes this route worthwhile is just like, we may have a scene later. And it's like,
Yeah.
what? Why? Why can't we just have a scene now?
Just I need to insert Oswin scenes because I'm writing a story where there's an B branch where he's dead and an A branch where he's alive. So I need to make him make appearances in a very cynical way of he literally just shows up and says, "We will talk sometime." Greetings, Siri.
When I say this, I mean it very fully. The B route is garbage. It is terrible. It should not be written. So far, it might be a more compelling story than the A route. Like, I think that's terrifying. I think that's embarrassing and bad. Because at least the B route is just full of characters who don't know what the fuck is going on, and at least they're just like, I don't know what's going on. Whereas here, it's just like, it almost feels like the B route was written first, and then the A route just had scenes tacked onto it, which is wild. Like, that's just embarrassing.
That just feels insane, but I feel like it's just always gonna feel somewhere in that territory, because like the opposite also definitely felt true.
Yes.
It definitely felt like they just removed stuff to make the B route, so I don't know how to judge this. I have no idea. And the real answer is they probably just wrote them both at the same time, so maybe both happened on a regular basis. Like, I have this in mind for this route, and then it's just the inherent problem of trying to make your narrative so modular. Like, this is a problem that all Western RPGs have to some extent, is that you create so many hooks for so many different little narrative interactions, but that also means that the game's full of super disposable interactions. It's like, haha, what if Asterion and Garblegood had a conversation? It's like, okay, well, it only happens if they're in the same party at the same time in this location, and then so we can't. It's like, it can be a cute little detail that passes in a few seconds, but also we can't make it important because no one will find it, and so on.
Yeah.
And then you're always sitting back to the status quo that assumes that just doesn't care which characters you have with you in order to function, and like the narratives are functionally doing that when you write a book that way.
Yeah. I don't know, man. It's kind of bad.
The only thing I had in mind was talking to Oswin. I had questions. He had questions for me, and I had some for him as well. I wanted to know more about what I'd found. Plus, where I went and what it all meant. This was his home, so he was bound to know more about what was surrounding it, right? I haven't really thought about it. Just something later with Osmond, really. Okay, cool. What did you want to do? Sleep, maybe, or just lay down? Tyson looked at me carefully, eyes narrowing for a moment before he seemed to clue into how I was feeling. All right. I opened my mouth to say something and then shut it again, wondering how best to approach what I wanted to talk to him about given the dream I had. Not to mention things from the past couple days. If there was any hope of me finding out what he and Dad talked about, I'd have asked him directly. That's assuming he even remembered. Can I let you know later? After breakfast, maybe?
I think that should be fine. I wouldn't mind watching a movie assuming Haas isn't using the television upstairs.
Conversation's stupid. Anime. It's logistics, okay. As I turned away from the back door, I noticed Ty lingering a bit back near the stairs, just watching me. He didn't say anything to indicate he was there, instead just watching. Waiting maybe for me to say something first. I can't do it. Go outside, I mean. Did you even want to? Maybe? Probably not, I shrugged, skittering towards Tyson before I continued. Given the pacing of how the game worked and whatnot, and how the routes just
crab
end,
walking over to Tyson.
the Zoidberging. I'm just imagining like the routes just end at day 20-ish. Like the romance just drops off and they stop talking about it. That does mean we're already 75% of the way through Tyson's entire storyline. This is what they told so far. This is all it amounted to. A setup for that doesn't pay off to match up with any of the stuff we knew, and then now he just became the character that we knew from the other routes with no growth or transition, and now he just says I'm not gay sometimes.
Yeah.
I'm scared?
So rough.
Question mark? No shit, you're scared. Don't think anyone would blame you either. He cut himself off, scratching the fur on the back of his neck. What I mean is, I don't. Just don't go wandering out there without telling someone. Don't go out there without telling me, alright? Almost lost you once. Sorry. He approached and carefully wrapped me in another hug. Brief, but after a tight squeeze I felt a little better. What are you doing out there by yourself? Just thinking, really? I don't really know how I should be feeling, but everything seems different now. Not like a bad different or good different, but just different. Ty didn't seem to understand, instead just frowning as he watched me in silence. What I mean is that I'm wondering if I'm still me, I guess, or what that even means after this past year and a half. This is why you bailed before you could let me know if we're watching shit with Sal and Haas? I blinked, having already forgotten that I'd said that. My bad? Also fuck you? Oh shit. Good to know you're slowly getting back to normal. That's not what any of the words that have been said meant. I don't know if I'm me anymore, and I don't know if it's good or bad, or something's changing. I don't think I really want to be around a bunch of people today, Ty. I feel embarrassed about yesterday still. He turned to go and I grabbed him quickly by the arm. But, can we hang out today? Just the two of us? Alright, what'd you want to do? I didn't get that far, but at the very least I had a dream last night that I want to talk to you about. What kind of dream? The conversation we've had 75 times, but it was in a dream this time. Not a bad one, just, I don't know. One that made me want to talk to you about stuff. He sighed, rolling his eyes. This is about what I think it's about, that I don't really want to rehash what we've already talked about. I nodded slowly, dropping my hand away. I understand.
Right now, sometimes I'm just struck with a feeling, right? And it's really intense. It's like a sudden moment of self-reflection.
You're hooked on a feeling.
And realization. And in this particular moment, I just looked over at the screen and just realized that I was grimacing. Ugh. This sucks. I don't like this guy at all. I don't like these characters. I don't care about them. My thought in the moment was I'd mash through this. Mm-hmm. And then I realized that I was thinking that and what that meant. And I was oh no. And yeah, just moments of lucidity. They hit you sometimes.
I'm always on the edge of just which is this the one? Are these the conversations I skip?
It's frustrating because it is exactly.
Art,
I think it was when you said
it's the whole point.
When you said they're having the same conversation they've had 100 times, my thought was yeah. And then I was oh no, that's not good.
100%.
Very tiresome.
I understand. I'll go find someone else to hang out to keep my mind off it. Tyson's eyes narrowed. I couldn't tell if it was because he was thinking something over or if he was just suspicious if I was pulling a fast one on him. Groaning, he threw his hands up before lazily letting one of them land casually on my shoulder. Fine. We'll have the... Sorry, he did the Spider-Man. Hey. We'll have the talk again, but I fucking swear, Dave, this better be the last time. I can't promise that. My reply came fast enough that it made Tyson flinch, looking at me carefully. That just caused Toaster psychic damage. Just the acknowledgement of this conversation repeating more. There are so many things I barely understand, and sure, I could probably ask Dean or Orlando or Roswell about, or literally anyone smarter than me to explain them. Breathing in deep, I continued, shutting my eyes so I didn't lose my resolve and just saying what I needed to get off my chest. But they're not my family. They're not you. Not only that, but because some of these things are directly about you, that I don't want other people to think. I don't want what other people think when I could ask about how you feel. Oh, punctuation, just none of it. Just none of it. Not only that, but because some of the things are directly about you that I don't want to know what other people would think of. I can't even get through it once. Not only that, but because some of the things that are directly about you that I don't want what other people think when I could ask about how you feel. I think I technically said all the words correctly that time.
I think I technically had a stroke.
Just
now.
I just, poof.
This game frustrates me a lot.
It's just, it feels impossible. I just can't. I don't. The longer it goes, the more we see more of this text, the more I'm just like, it can't exist in this form. It just can't. Someone had to have stopped it at some point. The creator has to notice at some point. Like at some point,
people paid for this.
It just feels bad for it to exist in this form. You're just like, why? No.
People get mad about like the Overwatch Battle Pass and then subscribe to this Patreon for 2 years while it's being made. Like, I just want to put that out there. Like, I want to think about that for like a real hard minute. It's brutal.
It's quite the moment when you look up password content on YouTube and the first results are often, this is the best mystery game I've ever played. I'm like,
this is one of the most well-written mysteries I've ever heard. My question still remains, what mystery? I haven't seen one yet.
Yeah. I don't want to call people out, but that particular video also existed back when like only like 12 days existed so far.
Yeah,
so,
it's just people reading
so
into...
their idea of it being a super well-made mystery was just the idea that like, oh...
They didn't know what was happening
Every character
yet.
route has a death in it. That was all that happened so far. Every character route has a death in it, and then there's the Benson and Orlando scene, and that's everything so far. And then just, I guess just the meeting with Oswin was just so striking despite having nothing to say and not actually building a mystery that oh my god, this climax. And like when the game only exists in that form, that seemed to be when it hooked a lot of people. And on some level I can almost see that, but only because of the part where it is kind of interesting and varied to hop between all the different routes and get hit by a different death with a different context and different thing to consider about it. And if you had if you were forced to play all of those to milk the game for content, because that's all that's there so far, you might think this was going somewhere.
Yeah,
but universally, those deaths are never acknowledged again, and we never even get an answer about who did it.
Yeah, my take
to the point
on
where
this
it actually might be a plot hole or impossible how they died. It's unclear. Tyson might have been killed by Jack. That's the only best we have.
One of my takes on this is just like, I think that a lot of really good mysteries are solvable. Like, that's what makes mysteries interesting, is that you can solve them and you can understand, and there's like payoff to your experience going through it. And that can be really meaningful and interesting and cool. But I struggle specifically with this game because I don't think there's actually mysteries. And one of the other big things is that you and I have called every single plot point in this narrative. Every single time there has been something happening, you and I have been like, oh yeah, it's clearly like Roswell's dying. We called that on like day one. Like, and the thing is we're not calling that because it's well signposted. We called that because it's tropey shorthand. And we knew immediately because we were like, oh.
We saw the writing on the wall of like what these kinds of narratives are, and we've played Zero Escape, and we're like, oh, okay.
Yeah. And it's like, okay, that's what this is. Like, it's not like a clever thematic thing where I'm like, oh, when Roswell revealed that he's sick, it was payoff. It was just like, oh yeah. Nope, it was this because I know the thing it's referencing.
It was agony when it was paid off, or when it was finally established, because it was like, oh, it's an afterthought in an unrunrelated conversation is when it finally gets. You're like, what the fuck? That's your way of revealing this? It's not in any way motivated by any kind of character moment. You're just like, I guess we'll just drop it. It's on my to-do list. I had a bullet pointed list of what to put in today, and so I put it in, and that's the entire motivation.
Yeah, and it's just frustrating because like when people are like, this is the best, most well-written mystery, and like I love this and it's so great, and it's like, you can love this all you want, like people can like bad stuff, but like from a structural standpoint, there are just like major flaws here in how this story is like even being constructed. And it's just weird because like there's just nothing going on. Like I don't know what there is to latch onto. And I think a lot of people at the time when this was coming out were like, oh my God, it's so intriguing. Like I have no idea where the plot's going. And so they were like, this is a cool mystery. This is one of the best mysteries because there's so many threads set up. But in reality,
they didn't notice
there wasn't a mystery.
By another Sherlock.
Yeah, there was no mystery. Those just go nowhere. Like you not knowing things about what happens does not make this a mystery. That just means you don't know what is going on. And if that doesn't pay off and doesn't become a mystery, which is something that has a structure, then like there's no mystery. There's nothing to solve. You just don't understand what's going on, and neither do we because they didn't communicate it. And that's consistently what's been happening. Because Keith and I have understood everything that's happened in the plot so far.
It's like half the points we've guessed were like not even because it was like, it's not because it was foreshadowed exactly, and it's also not because like it was largely just because of the fact that like there was such an absence of things going on that we're like, well, this is what you do as like the bare minimum to make this interesting. Or if you were telling a story, you'd be like, okay, well, Roswell's dying and this is all that's an experiment that we're doing on purpose and something like that. Yeah, and it's like that's just like at some point when nothing else is coming up, you're like, well, that's all we have to go on. That must be what's happening, and you kind of just make it up, and then it's true because what else was going to happen at some point? Because there's nothing else coming up. When I opened my eyes again, Tyson looked shell-shocked, going to say something every other second, but fumbling over what specifically he wanted to say back. So, until I understand, I'm going to keep asking you. At the very least, because you're the older brother between the two of us, right? Help me understand what's going on. I really thought they would drop the sibling stuff in the romance route, but they're saying it constantly.
Yeah.
Like, they're not siblings. They haven't even known each other that long. Or at least haven't been in this, like, they haven't had a closer relationship for very long. So you think that you just lean away from saying that constantly if you think the relationship's going in a different direction.
Yeah.
And the next moment I had one of Tyson's hands around my muzzle, clamping it shut. His voice was brought down low and his gaze averted somewhat, although then you'd have to manually flag every single moment where he says that in any other route because of the shared text and remove it in his route. Okay, I get it. You don't want to make a big fucking scene in the middle of the foyer. Wouldn't be surprised if the whole house heard you with the echo.
Yeah, if only we didn't have a bunch of soundproofed rooms.
Mm-hmm. Do noises carry or not in this setting?
Only when it's convenient for the narrative.
Easing off, he sighed out as I rubbed my face. Meet me in my room in a couple minutes. I'm just gonna word up Sal and Haas that they're watching stuff on their own for however long this takes. Thanks, Ty. It's fine. Don't worry about it. See you in a bit. Ty wandered back into the dining room, but not without pausing to look at me quickly over his shoulder before disappearing out of sight. As he sorted out his plans for the day, I headed up to his room, looking around. There was a part of me that didn't want to be here, almost like it was forbidden ground to tread on. But in reality, the moment my eyes fell on his bed, I whined with memories from a week ago. God fucking damn it. Dave, why are you doing this? He's literally traumatized. He's literally traumatized by Tyson for what he did, and he's still trying to pursue a relationship with him. It's insane. Why would you write this? Like, it's horrible to include that in your story to begin with, because the game just the story is not equipped to deal with it in any way, and it keeps wanting to just blow past it. But I also would, like, on some level, I would almost respect it better if it did just actually give up and just move past it and stop addressing it. Because the fact that they keep addressing it but also keep moving forward makes it so actively upsetting, because it just gives you a character that's traumatized by their sexual assault while going to the arms of the very person who did that to them. And
yeah,
and it's just that's what you make the narrative about.
Yeah, I'm gonna caveat this and say, and for the audience, not for you, I understand what you're communicating. It is totally possible to have a story about these topics and have it not be shit garbage.
Yeah, I don't think that's what they're doing, though. I don't think they're even necessarily trying to do that. They're just like, remember berries? Remember when this happened? And then they keep writing the plot anyway.
I've read plenty of stories where I disagree with the content of the story, right? Like, oh no, SA is bad and I don't need a story about a victim, being Stockholm syndromed into being in a relationship with their abuser. Like, that's unpleasant for my brain to put its tongue on. Like, I get it. Like, I fully understand that. But you can still have stories about that where you get interesting things out of that and explore themes in an interesting way. And like, even if the main character doesn't get out of this in the way that we all hope that they would, you can still tell an interesting story with those ideas and like uncover interesting things about the human condition and like talk about the nuance of like love and abuse and PTSD and like self-harm and like behaviors like that. This story doesn't do that. This story is just like, well, they picked the husbando, so we now need to make him the waifu. Because remember when Haas said, "There's no choices in this game,"
so you can't do the same thing, which would be to actually say "fuck it" and go date Dean at this point. Yeah. So they're like, "Oh shit, we permanently damaged our character by including SA at the beginning of the story." But there's no branches, so we're still going to be with Tyson for the rest of the game. Fuck, I guess we'll just have our cake and eat it too, and then it's the most upsetting way to do that.
There can be amazing literature and work in media about toxic relationships where you're like, oh, I don't want these characters to be together. It is bad that they are together, and every mistake that they made, they should not have made. Where you still make those characters interesting and make their drama compelling. I've read and I've seen plenty of movies that do this. It's super cool when that happens because it creates an interesting space to like interact in. This does not do that at all.
Versions that are even unpacked with like Leo and Flynn and even Cameron to an extent of just trying to figure out whether or not this relationship works and unpacking the friction that they have, and like that's just there's counterexamples within the medium that just aren't that, and this just isn't it. This is just moving the narrative forward with a person that struggles with their own homosexuality that they may or may not have, but they definitely were because of how fucking horny they were, while also just periodically acknowledging that SA happened, and then that's it. You just keep commenting on it. You just keep mentioning it, and that's it. Because most of the story is just mentioning things over and over again. Just like how there's not really an arc between the two of them. They just keep mentioning, I'm not gay, like 6 times in a row. And then eventually one of these conversations will be like, actually.
Someone in the comments, I'm sure, will be like, well, he's actually dealing with it and his character arc won't develop. But we're on day 15. We're on day 15 of a story that at its longest in our experience has lasted only 10 more days. We are still in Act 1 of a 3-act structure.
The routes ended way sooner than that.
Yes.
Like Cell fell off the face of the planet like 5 days before the story ended. So like, once upon a time we were like, day 15, so much potential. This is the halfway of the story because they keep saying month, but now we know that like the character routes seem to just end in a few more days, and then that's it. So this is like we're reaching the end of his story, and there just hasn't been development. Like even if he just suddenly changes here, there won't have been like development necessarily, because it's just not there aren't like textured interactions that explore any of this in any like real feeling way. They just stop in a room and have a conversation about it, and it's the same conversation every day, and that's just not an arc. That's not even scenes really. It's just repeat. It's a copy paste but rephrasing it each time, like you're plagiarizing yourself. But in reality, the moment my eyes fell on his bed, I whined with memories from a week ago. Nothing happened, but they shouldn't have gotten that far. Another thing that we need to talk about at some point. You just can't call that nothing happening. By the time Ty came back, I was still awkwardly standing in the middle of the room, giving me a funny look. He closed the door behind him and wandered past me to the bed to sit down. You coming? I'm good for now. Why the fuck you standing there for? You remember a week ago, right? Immediately his ears drooped, mood deflating. Fuck. Right. We could do this in your room if you want, or literally anywhere else if that's better. No, it's fine, I think. But that's just one of the things I don't understand. We'll get to that later, though. Cool, just introduce that. We're just gonna be thinking about that the whole time, but we're not gonna talk about that right now. Carefully, I wandered over to the bed and sat down next to him, frowning. So, I had a dream last night about you. What kind of dream? Well, it was about being back home. How things would be after we get back from this, well, vacation, I guess. What do you think they'd be like? Different? I was in my own house and I was lonely and that was the whole scene. Different, sure. Like, maybe I'd be dating someone, maybe not. Maybe the others would be around somehow. Or maybe it'd just be you and me. This is not the contents of the dream we just had. Well, you know I want to sort my shit out and bail too, right? I'd forgotten about it, in all honesty. Making me hang my head and sigh out. Please don't leave too, Ty. If everyone leaves, then where does that leave me? Maybe you should go somewhere too. Maybe hit up the beach and have a decent vacation after this one. You like the beach. People love going to the beach alone. Dave just out there, just kicking his feet in the sand. Well, no one's here. I like the beach because you and Dad were there. If neither of you were around, it wouldn't be the same, I think. Glancing at him, I noticed him nodding slowly. Guess that's fair. Probably just be a reminder that you're alone, huh? Yeah, but that's not the important part, Ty. Then what is? The past few nights, they've all been dreams of Dad, but after yesterday, the one person that I wanted to see most, it felt silly for being so mushy, and I felt my ears burn and cheeks go red under my fur. It was you, so... I could hear it before I looked over to him, the steady thumping of his tail against the bed. Look, you said you're not gay, I get that. But then you tell me you're not sure. I get that too. But is it bad that I want you to know? For you to be sure? I might not even be your type, and that's cool too, but just not knowing makes it hard for me to be able to know what's alright to say and what isn't okay to do, and without either, it's just very hard to do anything. Breathing in again, I felt myself getting worked up. Not in a sad way, but more an annoyed way that made my words come out closer to a bark than I intended. Then we've got everything going on with you and Haas, which is cool, but I feel a little jealous that he was my friend first. Fucking shut the fuck up, Dave. Why are you going here? But also, I'm happy that you have a friend now.
I don't understand why they're like, we're all on vacation. We brought each other together. And at the beginning of the story, he was like, this might be good for you, Tyson. Get you friends. And now he's like, but you're making a friend.
You're making friends out of my friends. You're supposed to make friends out of people who weren't my friends on a trip that's only my friends.
I don't like these characters at all.
But then I'm worried about what happened a week ago now and people pushing me towards Dean and fucking set boundaries. Set boundaries, Dave. Just fucking tell people to stop shipping you with Dean. Like, you're a real person. You don't like Dean? Well, I don't love Dean, Ty. I love... Without suddenly I'd replied, I wasn't aware of what I was saying until I'd almost spilled the beans. You... what?
Did you spill your beans, Dave?
Fuck. If you love someone, then damn, tell them already. Tyson.
You've said...
Tyson, you're not a real person. You're just not real. You can't be this...
And this is where the music swells and the camera crash zooms on Dave's face and his lip wobbles and he goes, but I love you, Tyson.
Easier said than done. A few moments passed while I figured out what I wanted to say. In the spur of the moment, I could have just confessed right then and there that I loved Ty without being completely sure that was the case. It's not really a confession then. You'd just be wrong. You'd be like autopiloting a sentence, like half of the script. But as I looked at Ty, it seemed like he already knew and was struggling to find a way out of the situation I'd put him in. Then, I'll tell them to back off. Wait, what? I'll tell the others to back off on trying to set you up with Dean. Easy. It took a few seconds for me to understand, and I wasn't sure if Ty had missed the point or if he was conveniently giving me an out. I rubbed my face, sighing out and slumping back onto the bed. Now I'm just not sure. I hate you. It was almost like we were at home again, laying down next to each other, just hanging out. Be it on the grass of the front lawn, backyard, middle of the living room, or on my bed. Ty, why can't it just be easy to fall in love with someone and just... this whole thing sort itself out? Life is shit like that, that's why. No kidding. Even the people that should love you don't always, and it sucks. That's why Dave ruled so much. David. You could probably just call him Dad, I think. The thought made me smile, if a little misty-eyed. He probably would have been fine with that. Not until my own dad kicks the bucket, and I hope that piece of shit keels over sooner rather than later. I knew already that Ty's dad wasn't the greatest on a lot of fronts, but hearing him be so direct about wanting him dead was a first. That's not a nice thing to say, Ty. I don't care. He'd be better off dead so he can't hurt anyone else. Don't want him even thinking of coming near you either. Was he really that bad? Like, really? Fucking, you saw the house, you saw the alcohol. First Mom ditched me with him, and then he just saw that as an excuse to make me pick up the slack and blamed me for her not being around. He was almost bellowing to the ceiling to the point I was considering covering my ears. Instead, I just reached out for a hand and grabbed it tightly. He seemed content to just keep ranting, although he squeezed my hand back. He made a go at you when you came over, and most days he'll just work to just get paid, then blow most of it to get drunk. I'd be dead if it wasn't for you. I didn't... He turned suddenly onto his side to face me, bringing his voice low, although there was still that notable growl in his voice. His language... And then here I am, even now, fucking acting like him, because I don't know how to not be a shit person when I just want people to leave me alone. I don't really understand. You know damn well what I'm talking about, Dave. Our eyes met for the briefest of seconds before he looked away, leaving me to puzzle it out myself. What you almost did a week ago. It shouldn't have happened. It shouldn't have even been a thing I'd consider. Like, shit, being in your position was bad enough as it was. He trailed off suddenly, his grip on my hand easing off entirely, and he hung his head between us. I could hear him whimpering softly as he seemed to be recalling something. I was only a kid. I did the only thing I knew how and sat my chin atop his head and rubbed his arm. What could I even say to that? The implication was clear as day, and I feared that if I pushed for more information, I'd lose what ability I had to ignore it. The time ticked by, as we just lay like that, motionless. The whimpering died down, and it almost seemed like Tyson had fallen asleep until he spoke up again. You should hate me for that. It wasn't a nice thing to do to me, Ty. If I told any of the others, they'd be out for blood for sure. And you haven't. Because if I did, they'd be abandoning you instead of finding out why it happened. Why you treat me that way. Ty shifted around so that he could instead place his head atop mine, forcing my nose against his neck rather than arrange us both so we were comfortable. Didn't think you were serious for a few days after that. Even with the gun thing and Benson, just assumed, well, you're thinking about your dad. The Benson thing was different. Losing you as well as Dad would be too much, I think. Right, but you're a fucking idiot, Dave. You stopped me from going into the woods to get shanked and head on in yourself like you forgot. Now it's my turn to whine. But instead, he just shifted a hand onto my shoulder and started rubbing my neck. I'm glad neither of us ended up dead, you know? Me too. For another few moments, we just lay there until I prodded him gently in the chest. Why did you get so upset that day? You'd resort to that. I don't know. Probably because I was scared that I'd end up hurting you if I stuck around, maybe. Or that I'd get jealous and take it out on someone else and you'd hate me. The fuck thing is that you were gonna hate me. If you were gonna hate me, I'd rather it be because of something I did directly to you, right? That makes sense, sure. What I don't get is why that even crossed your mind. Did you want me to hate you or something? That's what he just said, and you said it made sense. Nah, that's not it. Oh, cool. Okay. Cool. It's like, we both sat up and he stretched, looking crestfallen while he rubbed his face. Thought, what's the worst thing that happened to me? And what could I do to you? Then if you hated me, I could make a clean split and figure myself out. Then you'd not be, like, worried about making sure everyone else was getting along with me, too. That's kinda dumb, Ty. The fuck is that supposed to mean? That you think that now of all times I'd be looking to randomly hate you just because. Hell, right after I was claiming that, I was trying to save your life, and even willing to strip down in the backyard to keep you safe? Ty, come on. If that's not evidence enough of how important you are to me, then I don't know what it is. My mouth suddenly felt dry, rasping out my next breath as I pulled the brakes on my train of thought. Well, it took me by surprise for sure. Do you love me? What? You know, like, at all? Where the fuck is this coming from? I don't know. Everything's complicated and I just remember things being simpler. What am I to you? A brother? Less than that? More than that? I'm gonna level with you. I don't know. I'd like to know what this feeling is, but it's scary as all hell. Sometimes it's a good feeling, sometimes bad, sometimes it's just a fucking downer that I'd rather it just not be there. Oh. Look, I know what you want me to say, but I just don't want to say it. What if I don't mean it? What if it turns out that you get your hopes up and I'm just like, not able to return what you feel for me? But I haven't said how I feel yet. Do you think that? Do you think you've never said to Tyson what you feel? How do you write that sentence? You're not exactly subtle. Plus, I kind of know how you'd say it anyway. It's just... Ty went quiet suddenly, not even sighing out. His eyes went to the floor and his tail remained deathly still. One of the last things David said to me anyway. What? Yeah. Remember, the guy talk we had for like an hour? I remember. I never did find out what it was about. Probably never will. It was just stuff I needed advice on. Stuff that I've hinted at the contents of, and also am bringing up of my own will, but while saying I won't say what it is. Is it all sorted out at least? Not really. Getting there, though. But part of that was David saying shit that made me feel really uncomfortable. He just laughed it off, though. What sort of things? Ty's tail started to thump behind him again. And if I had the hinting suspicion that his cheeks... were going red under his fur. Way too many words and if shouldn't be there at all. Okay. Stupid stuff. Come on, tell me. Whatever it was must have been good, right? Tail seems to think so. Snatching his tail so he could hold it against the bed, he sighed out. That he loved me. That he was proud I came asking for advice. Stuff like that. It wasn't the first time I'd done it, so it was just strange he'd say that stuff then of all times, right? Dad was the best. He was, yeah. We stared at each other for a few moments, just watching or waiting for the other to make the first move. I really am. I hope you know that. What? You really are what? Sorry. I feel like if what happened just didn't, things would be a bit different now. Different how? Dunno. Maybe we'd have gone to the beach instead of coming here. Maybe we'd have made plans to move in somewhere together and have a place of our own. Is that something you still want? He shrugged and I thought it over. Well, regardless of where I go, I'll keep in mind to have a spare bedroom ready and waiting for if you need it. No matter whatever boyfriend I might have says. Thanks, Dave. I'm sure he'll love that. Not pup? It feels weird to say now. You're not a kid. And you're like more to me than just a pet, so fuck knows if I'll say it again. Well, do you prefer Ty or Tyson? He grumbled, mumbling something barely coherent, but I caught it all the same. I just like hearing your voice. Resting my head on his shoulder, I sighed out, feeling a little better. For me, I guess, like saying... We can say Ty or Tyson all game. Whoa. Comment hung in the air between us for a bit before I continued, wanting to explain why. Like, it's what I call you, right? It's a special thing for me because it's like a nickname or like a thing I'm allowed to do because we're close, right? Yeah. Sure as hell wouldn't let Haas call me that anyway. He has his own nickname as it is. Right. Randoms calling me that can get fucked too. I have a name. Okay, maybe dial it back a little? My point is that I like saying Ty because it tells me that we're close. I don't really care if others call you that. I care. Calling me that is your thing. Like how you're Dave instead of going by David, like, well, David. It also helps keep things a little less confusing, but I get what you mean, I think. Not confusing to me, you're just you. As much of a brat as you are. Careful, Tyson. Careful, Ty. Otherwise, I might have to find a new nickname to call you by. Yeah, like you'd go and do that. I don't know, if Haas is calling you Big Dog now, maybe you could be Little... Oh no. In a flash, Ty had his arms around my head, grinding a knuckle into the spot between my ears. Okay, I'm sorry, it hurts, Uncle. What was that you're about to call me? Because it better not have been what I think it was. It wasn't, I'm sorry. He let go, but not before patting the fur on my head back down. Try calling me a bitch again and see what happens. Don't tempt me. I smile as I saw Ty shake with laughter. His spirits clearly high, not a sprite. It was almost contagious, and I found myself snickering alongside him as I rubbed my head. I checked the time on my phone quickly and saw that we didn't have any reception. The thought caused me to frown, but more than that, I realized just how long we'd been chatting for. Haas and Sal are probably wondering where you are. Fuck it, you're more important. I'll be fine until later. I just like that we talk things out. What's happening later? Oh, well, I have a few things I need to let you guys know. I never did really get around to explaining what happened, but already I could feel the thought of Jack and his knife starting to creep into the front of my memory. Hey, it's all right. You're safe. Yeah, I'm safe, right? I just said that. No, that's not what I meant. Something else is... I frowned as he watched me. I left my thought there, unsure exactly of how to explain it. Well, if you're in trouble, you better tell me. I'm not sure. At least not yet. What I mean is that, I groaned, rubbing my face. Tyson threw an arm over my shoulder, and that made me feel somewhat less apprehensive about the talk I need to have tonight. Come on. Let's go hang with Haas and Sal until you're ready. Despite the plan to head over to the rec room, we headed downstairs for a snack first, with the idea that we'd be free to spend the rest of the afternoon without needing to break for lunch. We're gonna watch anime! I'm so excited.
Come on.
This seems to be going as well as it did for Tyson yesterday.
When we arrived to meet up with the other two, we walked in on what appeared to be Haas trying to convince Sal about something.
Ah, you're here. Good. You can help me convince Sal too.
The moment Haas started talking, Ty was on his way forward, quieting up with his trademark move of putting his hand around Haas's face. What? Uh-huh. His famous trademark move.
His trademark move that he's done so many times.
Uh-huh. Leave him alone, Top Cat. I hate that name.
I don't like any of these nicknames.
Really
I have never
bad.
met anyone who calls people literally call me Toaster, which is in fact my name, all the time. And I just can't accept this. This is dumb. It's bad. I hate it.
What did you think of the Tyson reveal, Toaster?
The Tyson reveal, where it was revealed that he's a completely different character? I don't know, man. I have no thoughts. If I were to think about this, I would probably die instantly.
You're Donna Noble.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, literally, yeah. That's what's happening right now. Like, no thanks. Like, it's whatever. It's not for me.
It's so fraught with stuff that's not fun to talk about, and I don't think it's doing any of it particularly well. But I also, because of what it's full of, I don't want to analyze that. I don't want to talk about the mechanics of why or why not it's doing well, because it's just dancing and upsetting subject matter now.
I'm spending right now
This is people's
not thinking
favorite
about this.
route.
I'm spending time not thinking about that, and instead just thinking about the non-canon but exceptionally interesting Metal Gear Ghost Babel for the Game Boy Color. Have you ever thought about that before?
No,
that's an interesting thing to think
I beat
about.
Metal Gear Acid.
That's a good one too.
That was a neat, weird game.
Doesn't it make your brain feel good to think about things that don't suck?
Yeah. Metal Gear Solid 2 was the first video game to make me cry. Because I was a little boy, just a tiny little 12-year-old, and I wasn't ready for the death that I don't think people even take that seriously as adults.
No.
But as a kid, I'm like, no! It's like upsetting.
Uh-huh.
I think I technically
Metal
was
Gear.
below, I think I was below the age rating of that game.
I think about Metal Gear a lot. It feels good on my brain.
Uh-huh. Strong authorial intent video games.
Yeah.
Unlimited ammo.
Feels good.
It's a Hind D.
Leave him alone, Top Cat. Oh, sorry. I just remembered what the writing is.
Are you feeling better, Dave?
Yeah, I'm good.
Then I'm glad.
Cool.
Cool.
Wow. Deep. Dude, Sal said that the magical girl genre and Sentai genre were the same thing. I just had to correct him on it. You
Cool.
corrected him incorrectly, Haas. They are the same thing. Fuck you and die. I hate anime fans. I hate them all. I don't like any of them. If you like anime, you're on my shit list. Meet me outside.
Ironically, it makes Haas the most accurately realized character in the game. Does it really matter that much? Haas started making frustrated sounds, playing up how taken aback he was at the moment. I recognized it from the other times he'd done it to get a rise out of Orlando, but the faint smirk he flashed when I caught his eye knew that he wasn't being serious. Oh, thank God it's over.
Thank God.
We killed it. We killed anime.
I'm so glad.
I looked across to Oswin, who, along with Benson, ate with the rest of us. He was watching me quietly, almost waiting for me to make the first move. I got through half of my own meal before stopping, instead playing with what remained of my spoon. Hey, everyone? The moment I spoke, Oswin nodded slowly, setting his cutlery aside and mumbling something to Benson. The otter nodded back and headed into the kitchen and out of sight to do whatever it was that was asked of him.
What's the matter, Dave?
Are you not hungry? Does it taste bad? I can make you something else if you want. No, it's not that. Just, I need to tell you all about something. Is it about, you know? No. All eyes turned to Oswin as he answered for me from a moment after Orlando asked. It's something that led to everything that transpired a couple days ago. A cascade of issues that ultimately start with my intervention of something that I fear may yet come to pass.
Well, that sounds ominous.
Uh-huh.
If incredibly troubling given what happened to Dave.
Ominous.
Thank you for the astute
troubling.
observation.
I don't think that's what if means. I just don't think that's not why you put that word in that sentence.
No, it's not.
I made myself smaller in my chair and let Osmond lead the conversation. He made the offer. And if it saved me the task of explaining something I barely understood, I was going to let him. Wait, so the reason Dave went into the woods was because of you? In essence, yes. Although that's radically overestimating my direct role in things.
You were the one that said that this was your fault, you know?
I'm aware. I looked to Orlando, who
it would
seemed
be
to quickly
cool.
put something together, and his scales paled just enough to be noticeable. What's up?
I just think it would be cool if every character in the story died.
Yup.
I think about it a lot. In my restless dreams, I see that town.
Don't tell me. That thing that you stopped from happening. Before you go assuming the worst. I'll tell you now that the details specifically around what I stopped happening are unknown to me. But you just said...
Specifically. You said specifically. Then you know some of the details.
Yes, that is literally the premise of the conversation. That is the premise of having the talk that you are having right now. Of course he knows the details. He literally just announced, I have details for you about the thing. What the fuck?
I do, yes. Osmond looked at me and I looked at him back. There was a moment where I thought he was going to continue taking charge of the conversation, but it faded the longer he remained silent. What faded? Okay. The longer he didn't elaborate, the more my friends turned to me, as that's where he was looking. I breathed in and spoke quietly, my voice quivering as I struggled to put it into words. Marked for death. Closing my eyes, I heard the phrase echoing around in my head. I couldn't place why or how it seemed to be echoing around me, but it was, reminding me of things I'd seen so far. Tyson, mauled by something outside. Solidarity. Benson, shot in the dining room. Betrayal. Dean, or something, was going on. Sal had an axe. He was covered in blood. When I opened my eyes, I was breathing hard. But then, who could... Dave? You doing alright? Huh? How long did I zone out for? You zoned out? I looked at Oswin, who seemed amused by something, but I shook my head. Just... Okay, everyone knows that I've been messing with the vault, right?
Right?
Well, after the first time, Oswin contacted me through his radio thing, right? Close enough, yes. But why? Oswin said that one of us was going to die, right?
He said what?
Eyes were on Oswin again. He seemed completely unaffected by the looks he was getting. Dave speaks the truth, although he's not completely on the mark. Specifically, I told him that any number of you are at risk, not just one of you. The fuck? From what?
I'm waiting for Benson to show up and be like, "Oh yes, it can be explained that any of you are at risk, and those of you who are not, are not." Or who?
Osmond shrugged. You better start talking. I am. More importantly, I'm relaying what information I do know. Anything else, well...
I'm just thinking. I'm just sitting here thinking about things and like... You know, just as a...
We gotta get through it, Toaster. We gotta make it.
It's a video game that we're... playing. You ever think about that? You ever think about all the video games that you play in your life, and this just happens to you when you play them. Anyway, you're lying.
Pardon?
You do know more, but for whatever reason, you're just not saying it.
You're right in that I know many things that are quite frankly none of your business. You can't expect to just drop that bombshell and have them be alright with it, Oswin. My concern is not what my approval rating is, but to relay what the truth of the matter is. Which I'll remind you is that your lives are in danger. Fuck it, we'll just leave then. No! We can't! What? Why the fuck not? I explained to Dave at the time that leaving would only ensure the death of one of you. Not by my hand, mind you. I gave him the choice, and he decided to stay. But also, if you pick the other choice, it doesn't play out like he said anyway. Everyone dies.
Yeah. And the phone reception being cut?
Who can say? Not my doing in any case. So what, we just have to buy that? Fuck you, Dave almost died. I'm aware of that, but he didn't. Large in part to Benson. I thought the narration landed on the idea that Oswin shot.
I wasn't really thinking about that.
What's the point of the narration that indicates that Oswin was the one that probably fired the gun if they're doing this now?
What am I gonna say? What are the things that I'm about to say? And no help from you, I'll add.
And who do you think asked Benson to keep an eye out? So we're just dropping his revolver? I thought they inserted that specifically to whatever. But why me? Is Dave in that much danger? You tell me, Mr. Noble. Well, I don't want him in danger. I've been doing everything I can to try and keep him safe, which is nothing. I've done no things. Could you say the same about your father? What's he got to do with Dave's safety?
I can't say I like him very much.
Okay. All right. Whatever, Sal.
Acquainted already, are we, Sal?
We've met, but why Dave?
Dave is more collateral damage waiting to happen. What Orlando's father is actually after would be the vault downstairs. Why would a banker want the vault? There were a few confused glances around the room as I finished my question. With no one, I looked first to Orlando, then to Oswin. Wait, was that what he meant? What he was after? You're going to need to be more specific than that, Dave. He said the vault. The guy who, you know, he was interested in the vault but thought it was a time machine? The conversation was exclusively about Orlando's dad and the vault. So, like, what the fuck do you mean be more specific? I saw in Oswald's nostrils a flare at the mention of the time machine, and he grunted in annoyance. It's not a time machine, but it being described that way makes it abundantly clear who sent that rabbit.
I just don't understand. I just don't understand why Memphis is even part of this plot. I don't get it. He's the worst character in anything. He's a terrible villain, just not interesting at all. He's not even interesting in like a Joker-fied way. He's
not entertaining.
No. I don't get it.
What exactly is the vault? It's a bit beyond me, but it shows you how you die, right?
Not exactly. For the most part, exactly how and why it works isn't important right now. The important part is that Dave can use it, as can Orlando's father. What? Okay, so he can. He's just too stupid? And fuck it, give it to the guy. Like hell, I'll let you put Dave in danger just because you won't. And you're going to do what exactly? I'll have you know I'm not entirely too keen on handing over a machine like that to a crime boss. Even Tyson had to concede that giving anything to a crime syndicate wasn't as a clear-cut good or bad idea. What? Why did you neuter that statement so hard?
But it's not a time machine, right? What's the harm?
You're an intelligent boy. You tell me what someone could do with a machine built around quantum mechanics and morphic resonance.
I don't know. Fuck all? Who gives a shit?
I saw Orlando's hand eagerly shoot up right around the time that sly grin came up on Roswell's face.
Morphic resonance, huh?
I don't get it. Someone explain what exactly it is.
Well...
It's when you're Omega cringe, and then you die.
It might not be a time machine, but a machine like that could give you something like psychic powers.
I found myself glancing between Roswell and Oswin while Tyson seemed to be trying to understand the explanation. Roswell.
Being able to jump between different realities. Stuff like that. You know, the good stuff.
It's not really what it is.
That's not how it works. That's zero escape. I noticed Orlando sheepishly putting his hands down while Oswin fumed. Roswell clearly pleased with himself.
No? Well, it's something close to that anyway. But essentially, imagine being able to look into the future, to where you might be in danger. Imagine how useful that would be.
I suppose I'm not going to get a thoroughly explained version of this unless I do it myself, but now is hardly the time. What the fuck
No, now is exactly the time.
I don't have time to explain what I don't have time to explain. So, Orlando's
But the thing is he's gonna say, I don't have time to do this, and then after this scene breaks, everyone's gonna watch anime and then go to sleep. It's like,
people have literally nothing.
What do you mean you don't have
time
time to explain it? You need there to be urgency if that's the case. There's no urgency here. What the fuck are you talking about?
Yeah. So Orlando's dad is there. They're the bad guys? I'm not, I promise. He's very different from his father from my interactions with him, so unless he's a very good liar, I'm fairly certain Orlando's heart is in the right place. Okay, so where does that leave us now? Orlando's family wants the vault. We can't give it to him because Dave can use it if he's in trouble, but on top of that, at least one of us is in danger. But not only that, we can't leave because if we do, one of us will still be in danger? Yeah. But if we make it through to the end of the month, we're safe, right? Somehow. This is the thing everyone just accepts, and it's never explained why it would be a month.
I don't get why. None of this logic. This is them just repeating things like plot contrivances without actually defining like why any of them remains in danger. Like this is a prime example to be like, Memphis has it out for you, boy. That's why. We need to deal with Memphis. That's why you can't leave, because if you leave, you'll just die in a drive-by by the Dragon Mafia. Like you literally just have to line this shit up so that these characters understand, but they don't. Instead, they're just repeating things that they've been told, which is you can't leave.
We still have no idea what marked for death means.
Yeah. Is it active? Is it passive? Who is responsible for what? What is the reason why any of this shit is happening? There's no rhyme or reason to it. It's so stupid.
I think at one point Grizz mentioned that there's like a final destination thing, and I'm like, wait, what? That doesn't line up with
I don't know how that works, but we'll take it.
Final destination is so outside of how this whole game works so far that that'd be a weird thing to introduce.
Yeah.
And it's just frustrating if it really is just like a magic death force that's happening that's completely separate from every character motivation that's been established so far.
Yeah.
It's like it's not a murder mystery.
Yeah. I hate all of this.
That's right.
So much.
My interest is seeing you through to the end of the month alive and well. I may not show it, but I do genuinely wish for all of you to survive. Then, what happens now? We can't contact the police after what happened. Otherwise, I'd say we should do that. My dad's behind this, then... Well, I can't contact him either to tell him to stop. Would it be that easy? No, I suppose it wouldn't. In the meantime, we have Benson as a useful asset to keep us safe. I'll start shoring up what defenses I can, although that'd mostly just be keeping tabs on if the doors are locked or not. That's all of our defenses. The doors lock. Unfortunately, there are windows. Perhaps get the security system operational again. And what should we do? Stay safe, obviously. Are we gonna be alright for food? What about if the worst happens? It wouldn't come to that, would it? It may, but you won't. We don't live in isolation like this without stockpiling a little bit. As far as food stores, we shouldn't need to ration for a long while, even with the 9 of us present. There were sighs of relief all around, but we were left there, unsure of where to go next. I sat back in the chair and sighed out. It was out in the open now, and I felt good with everyone seemed to have context of what I'd been going through lately.
You want to know who's really sighing out here? It's me.
Yeah,
I'm sighing out so much that my lungs are deflating.
We just get to hear one of those periodically throughout the whole thing.
I don't get it.
Good.
Roswell's speaking caught me off guard, looking over only to see him thinking hard about something.
If Dave can use the vault, that's fine, but how has he been using it so far? How he's been using it so far doesn't feel very efficient, or at least the system itself seems flawed.
How do you mean?
Think back to when we were at the vault when we came back in from the hedge maze, right?
You had your notebook and you were trying to open it, right?
That's just it. There's 2 things wrong here. The first is that there's a door there, so there has to be something inside. If no, then what?
Was this in question? Was there things being inside in the fact that this is a door? I can't accept this, that we're doing this conversation again.
And if Orlando's dad wants it because it's a time machine, then does he not know what it looks like? Or that there's a door? Why isn't he after what's inside?
Hey now, we don't even know if what's inside is valuable, do we?
Eyes went to Oswin and he seemed distracted by something, having missed the implied question. Oswin? What's inside the vault? He gave me a careful stare, one that seemed to be thinking still about whatever it was that had distracted him. I'm not at liberty to say.
Is what's inside the vault dangerous? Valuable at least to a crime syndicate?
I like how he's a criminal and everyone knows this, except all the times when no one knows this, when it's super convenient for the plot, including Dave.
I'm melting a bit. To someone smart enough, what's contained inside could do a great deal of harm, a great deal of good, depending. I don't have faith that Orlando's father would be one to do good, willing or otherwise, with whatever he finds inside it. And we can't just open it and destroy what's inside either?
That'd solve one problem at least.
I'd consider it, but no. Destroying it would ultimately do more harm than good. Of that you can be sure, despite knowing nothing about anything.
Okay, right.
Roswell scratched his head before he continued.
Then there's the second thing, right?
And that would be?
If Dave can use the vault, then what's stopping him from just grabbing a dictionary and just brute forcing options with every word listed in it? He'd surely find something that would work, right?
Perhaps, but think about how many words there may be. Think about how long it would take for him to type each one individually.
There's enough fucking timelines where you can do that. Fucking library of the Borgesian library. You can the Tower of Babel. You can just have monkeys on typewriters now. You've already established that the world just resets. Just sit him down and fucking do it for every timeline. He'll get all the passwords. Shut the fuck up. Your goddamn logic doesn't make sense.
It's a lot of words. It'd take a while. And
You've got infinite time.
Well, across all timelines, maybe, but maybe not. Because the logic is supposed to be that unless you get a password, you do the same thing in every timeline. So he can't systematically check different parts of the dictionary in different timelines. And
unless he gets to that next timeline where he uses the password,
in takes time, and then if it takes long enough, then the password that's currently valid changes.
If he's traumatized by the deaths that causes and eventually does it enough times, he will remember and have the trauma password of sitting down looking at a dictionary in day 27 to try the password for day 27.
Just has to completely self-sabotage on like a horrifying scale.
Yeah, it would work.
Like how there are passwords that work when you didn't program in? Correct. There shouldn't be anything that slips by me as far as anyone using it but the window of opportunity to program something in.
I still don't understand why he made the vault and put passwords in that he programmed in. I don't understand why that's a factor.
Yeah, but
just say it's a quantum computer and you don't know the passwords.
I don't know why. I don't know why they keep explaining that he made some passwords and what that's going for. What was that sentence? There shouldn't be anything that slips by me as far as anyone using it but the window of opportunity to program something in. and delete the entry after you've seen it would be nearly impossible. He doesn't know how to punctuate at all. There's one comma here, and it's not even in the right spot. It's before a word you might put a comma by, like and. But the but is where the two sentences are joined, not the and. There shouldn't be anything that slips by me as far as anyone using it, comma. But the window of opportunity to program something in and delete the entry after you've seen it would be near impossible. That's where the two thoughts are. They're not where the comma is. That's just not... The fact that you miss the place where the comma goes and then you add a comma anyway later because it's near an and that just sounds right. just fundamentally suggests not understanding grammar on any real level.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, it's literally impossible.
Excuse me?
You said it works of morphic resonance.
Yep.
If we're looking at this as the pseudo-scientific principle instead of a work of science fiction, then anything that's coming across is not even in this timeline.
You'll do well to forget about different timelines, boy.
Fine. Different iterations of the universe, then. But this only supports my suggestion that if Dave really wanted to, he could brute force passwords.
Is that really possible? I'd do it if it would mean keeping people safe. I can't deny the possibility, but there's a problem in Roswell's reasoning.
Not as far as I can tell.
Then allow me to explain. The vault won't show you your own death, like Sal assumed. In fact, it's literally incapable of showing your own death.
And if we're in danger, Dave could just tell us and use that information to keep him safe in turn, right?
This would be a problem if Dave's death was ever the concern, but we explicitly know that we used the vault to save our friends.
Yep, they're not much for killing Dave. Unless he's never in a position to witness those events on other timelines.
But the thing is that there's infinite other timelines.
The moment you create a scenario that is forced to come to pass on every future instance of the further instance of the universe, you're dooming any potential alternatives you might be looking for.
Yes, so this is what Keith was saying a minute ago, but the thing is that isn't true, because there's an infinite amount of timelines and an infinite amount of times for him to do other things that aren't just brute forcing passwords. So you just flood it with the password spam, cover every option, and then he does other things in other timelines. This is not complicated. It's just scale. That's all it is. It's just scale.
So I just won't go punching in words. Easy.
But if you don't, then how are we meant to know who's in danger? It worked at least twice so far, so...
It's a decision that Dave will need to make for himself.
That's a meaningless statement.
Which he will never do. If anything, him not seeing anything is a good sign for the time being.
Yeah, it's not a decision that he's making, though. He's putting in passwords based on the active need to, where the game stops, and he goes, it is time for me to password now. It's not him making a decision about if he's going to brute force passwords or not. It's literally just Dave, like, it's just happening at him.
We'll see if Route
he remembers a fancy word and sees trauma and then does the thing.
We'll see if Route A is any different, but if we go by Route B, then this entire discussion is happening at the point in the narrative where one password remains in the entire game. Like, after almost all of them have already happened, here's the explanation of passwords, and then only one more happens, which is werewolf. So we'll see if that changes or not, but it's like, holy fuck, this explanation's coming so late, and then specifically, it's not like, oh, now it's time for us to take charge. It's like, no, the mechanic stops showing up now. But also... lost my train of thought a little bit. If Dave was being proactive, he would at the very least go to the vault every day in order to potentially encounter a password, because notably he only ever like suddenly conjures up a password and uses one when he goes to the vault. He never is like, oh fuck, a password has come to me randomly. It's always at the vault. So he needs to go to the vault every single day in order to create these scenarios. And he doesn't even do that going forward.
Yeah.
He's so actively not doing the one thing he could be doing, which costs nothing. Osmond went back to his meal a moment later, deciding that he was done talking, and a moment later, rising from the table. Much in the same way, everyone else started eating again, although the air was filled with uncertainty. Oh, who will live? Who will die? I finished up eating and took my plate into the kitchen not long after that. Well, the talk was nice. there was more still to come, and I was eager to get that done sooner rather than later. Just batshit interaction. My thing is that I couldn't even really engage with the logistics of time travel this time around because this game's like demoralizing me.
Yeah.
So we're just far enough into this particular session that I'm like, I can't hold two thoughts in my head at the same time anymore for this description. I'll just power through and read it because I'm just drained. I'm just actually drained at this point. Oh, okay.
Yeah, man. I don't know, dog. This is some rough shit.